This is Ocean Robbins, and in just about 6 minutes now, we're going to begin day 5 of the Food Revolution Summit. We'll start today by sharing an interview with Chris Wark, followed an hour after that by an interview, we're going to start with Dr. William Li, followed an hour after that by Chris Wark, and at the top of the hour after that with medical medium Anthony William. The subject for today's broadcasts is superfoods, beating cancer and promoting wellness in every cell. Cancer now takes the lives of more than 8 million people every year, and the devastating toll is rising. But do you know what is causing this cancer epidemic? Is it bad luck? Is it bad genetics? Is it the deficiency of some drug that hasn't yet been invented? It's not. We now know 90% of cancer is actually caused by a combination of diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors. That's 9 out of every 10 cases. And today we're going to find out how you can seize the power of your fork and the food on your plate to help fight cancer and to thrive in every cell of your body. We have received such a wonderful response to this summit so far, with thousands of comments submitted and with hundreds of thousands of participants joining in. And as we move through this day, I want to invite you to post and engage in the comments on the broadcast page. You can share what you're learning, what you're hearing that's inspiring you, what you're getting out of this summit, what you think of different speakers, and you can respond to other people's comments. Let's keep this conversation going and growing together. Remember to refresh the comments so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Karen Royce said, "These interviews are amazing, terrifying, and incredibly enlightening. Thank you, Ocean and John Robbins, for educating us and giving us tangible ways to engage with neighbors and to help our communities." Well, thank you, Karen. I'm so glad you are in this journey with us, and I am glad you are hearing the invitation to engage with neighbors and to help our communities, because food is so personal. You know, what you eat literally becomes you. Every bite you take becomes a part of your body. And at the same time, it's political, it's social. Food connects us to people, to communities, to policies, to practices all over the planet. And in this summit, we're illuminating the connection between the very intimate nature of food, the social, and the systemic, so that we can bring our food choices into alignment with our values and with what we really want for our world. Illa Farnsworth said, "I feel so blessed to have the knowledge now the Food Revolution Summits have given us through the years. I can't express how grateful I am. Thanks so much for educating us. I post the summit to my family Facebook page. Hopefully family members will be curious. My love to you all." Well, Ila, thank you for spreading the word and sharing it with your family members, and hopefully some will engage. And you know, we don't all have family members who eat or think or act all the time exactly the way we might like them to. I'm sure I'm not the only one who can say that, and you're probably not the only one either. But you know, we keep loving. There's something beautiful about family, which is that when it's expressed well in a healthy family, we love each other unconditionally. No matter what we eat, no matter what we think, no matter who we vote for, there's still this love that kind of permeates beyond it all. And out of that love, I think, in a healthy family ecosystem, we can also be true to our conscience and our values and really be fully who we are. And hopefully, it can be contagious, because when you care about someone, you want them to have the benefit of what you discover. We heard from Angela Pitzrick, who said, "This is a ton of information. Thank you for this amazing group of presentations. Now begins the challenge of turning upside down all that I've followed as true for 50 years. The challenge of my life for my life." Yes, Angela, thank you for sharing this, and thank you for being willing to undertake the challenge. You know, some people ask me, is it too late? I've eaten a certain way my whole life. Is it too late to make a change? And I say, you know something? In fact, in some ways, the worse you've done in the past, to use a judgmental term there, the more you have to gain from making a change. So it is never too late to reap the benefits of healthy eating. Your body is incredibly resilient and forgiving. And when you treat it right and feed it right, it can recover from all sorts of challenges. And creating new habits can be challenging as well. And that really is why we created Whole Life Club, which is a member community to kind of help you integrate everything that we're talking about for Life. So I encourage you, Angela, to check it out. I think there's even a link on the broadcast page for that. If you just joined us, we are about to start today's broadcasts. As we go through the day, I invite you to regularly refresh the comments at the bottom of the page, post your thoughts, reactions, and feelings, and share any insights you hear that you want to capture and share with others. Today's focus is superfoods, beating cancer and promoting wellness in every cell. We will start the day off with Dr. William Li, renowned cancer researcher and angiogenesis expert. At the top of the next hour, you'll hear us on with Chris Wark on how Chris beat cancer and you can too. And at the top of the hour after that, you'll hear us with renowned medical medium Anthony William on why celery juice, fruits, and vegetables can heal chronic illness. And now we're ready for Dr. William Li. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. William Li. Dr. William Li is a renowned doctor, scientist, and angiogenesis expert, and he's the author of the bestseller, Eat to Beat Disease, The New Science of How Your Body Can Heal Itself. Dr. Li's groundbreaking work has impacted more than 70 diseases, including cancer, diabetes, blindness, heart disease, and obesity. His wildly popular TED Talk, Can We Eat to Starve Cancer?, has been seen by more than 11 million people. Dr. Li founded the Eat to Beat Cancer Initiative, which is a community of 50,000 people passionate about using diet to fight cancer. In a moment, you are going to hear some very exciting anti-cancer research and find out which surprising foods you need to eat and not eat if you want to prevent cancer and enjoy health in every cell. So now, Will, my dad and I are so excited about your groundbreaking work and about your new book, and we are so glad to have you with us. And now, for this interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. And thank you, Will, for being with us again.
Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. You know, one of the concepts that I wish was more widely understood by folks is that our bodies are actually designed to fight disease. The subtitle of your new book is The New Science of How the Body Can Heal Itself. So what I want to start our conversation with is by asking you this. Have we radically underestimated how much foods can be used to amplify and augment the healing power that we all naturally possess?
Well, the answer to that is absolutely we have underestimated it. And I will give you sort of how I came at this. I'm a medical doctor who was trained at, one of the famous Harvard teaching hospitals, and I'm a research scientist that spent decades in the laboratory doing the same kind of hardcore biomedical research that you read about, in the newspapers, and very much oriented towards the medical approach that relates to treating disease and finding the best medicines for conquering and curing diseases. And what I realized for my patients that I had seen at the VA hospital, these were men that were once in their 20s, fit cut specimens that were trained to defend our country. By the time I saw them in their 50s and 60s and 70s, they were out of shape. They were morbidly obese with diabetes, terrible heart and disease, and cancer. And I would give them these diagnoses that they'd have to live with and be treated for. And on their way out the door, they'd all ask me one question, which was, Doc, what could I actually do for myself? What should I be eating? And I realized that I didn't have the answer to that. And it seemed wrong to me. And that's what set me off on this journey to ask the question, what can we do for ourselves? How is our body hardwired to heal itself? And what can we do to truly understand the potential for food? And that's really what led me to write my new book, Eat to Beat Disease, that it really describes an entirely new way to think about not only how to properly think about food, but how to properly think about the fact that our body is hardwired for health.
And when you say hardwired for health, can you explain that further?
Yeah, so the research that has been underway over the last 20 to 30 years has finally advanced to the point that we understand that our health is not the absence of disease, which is how most people think about it. You're not sick, you must be healthy. But in point of fact, the absence of disease is completely kind of the inside out way to be thinking about our health. Those of us who want to protect our health, what the research has led us to understand is that our health is protected by five health defense systems. These are working from the time that we're born to the last breath that we take. These health defense systems are cranking away, firing on all pistons to protect our circulation, to help our bodies and organs regenerate themselves, to help communicate with our healthy gut bacteria, to protect our DNA, and also to protect our body and our health using immunities.
Well, when you're talking about our innate five defense systems, I'm thinking about something I read in your new book, which I love, by the way. Just fine, fine work, Will. You write that we're at a turning point in the fight against disease. Are you saying that each of us has an opportunity now to take charge of our lives using food to transform our health?
We are actually at this turning point where one point we thought that our health was really in the hands of doctors and the health system. But in point of fact, we just see the doctor every now and then, but we actually see our kitchen, our gardens, our dining room tables every single day. And that's really where the turning point is for us to understand that, within our own clothes, underneath our skin, is the power to heal. And what we put in front of us and sort of what we put into our mouths every single day is the opportunity to fight disease, not through antibiotics or medications, but actually by putting foods into the body that activates the body's health defense system.
People are searching for what makes each pathology distinct from the other ones. But Will, your approach strikes me as different than that. You're looking for the common threads, and it seems to me that this has enabled you to achieve breakthroughs that help us to prevent and to reverse many diseases at the same time through the same food choices. Is that correct?
Yeah, so for decades before I actually wrote Eat to Beat Disease, I've been working on this idea that rather than try to chase down the secret causes of any one disease, and we all know, people study breast cancer, they study lung cancer, they study multiple sclerosis, they study diabetes. I became interested in this idea that research could be much more effective if we looked for common denominators. In other words, what linked multiple diseases, and could we actually then use the secret links that are identified to be able to find common solutions to these problems? Through my organization, the Angiogenesis Foundation, we were actually quite successful. We found that there were links between blood vessels that connected every single cancer with eye disease, with diabetes and obesity. And in fact, there were 32 FDA approved new medical treatments that actually came out of the work that we've done. But what I realize is that even more powerful than common denominator of disease is, in fact, common denominator of health. And the fact of the matter is that with understanding the common defense mechanisms, we can then protect against not only a single disease, but virtually every disease that we actually fear.
You mentioned angiogenesis a moment ago, which is, of course, been at the heart of your work for many, many years. We each have something like 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our bodies. And these vessels are continually bringing oxygen and nutrients to all of our cells and to all of our organs. The process by which these blood vessels are formed is called angiogenesis. Now, you've found that there are foods, and these include things like soy and green tea and maybe coffee, tomatoes, maybe even red wine, influence our angiogenesis defense systems. How so?
What happens is that whatever we swallow and put into our bodies, actually, as food, as whole foods, especially plant based foods, contain natural chemicals. These are what we call bioactives. They're biologically active because they actually serve a purpose in plants to really help plants stay healthy. But once they're in our bodies, they actually help to activate our body's defense systems. And one of the defense systems is our angiogenesis system, or our body's mechanism to keep circulation healthy. We want good blood flow to course through those 60,000 miles of blood vessels. I mean, think about the amount of blood that actually needs to get from your heart all the way down to the tip of your toe, or to the last cell that's sort of in the furthest part of your brain. It's the blood vessels that bring it there. So it stands to reason, and this is what we've discovered, that foods that we eat contain bioactives that can help your body maintain that healthy balance. What do I mean by that? Well, for soy, we know that whole soy foods, or foods that can be created from soy, actually contain a natural chemical called genistein. These are isoflavones that when we swallow the soy, whether it's tofu, whether it's soy milk, whether it's eating a soybean, we know that those isoflavones are absorbed into the body, and they act kind of like a lawnmower to mow the lawn of our circulation to keep just the right amount of healthy blood vessels for circulation, but preventing the excess growth of blood vessels that might feed cancer. So that's why soy actually winds up being an anti-cancer food. Green tea does the same thing using a different bioactive that are called catechins. Researchers have shown that if you actually drink green tea regularly, you can actually reduce the risk of developing colon cancer by up to 37% if you drink 3 cups of tea a day. This was a study of 60,000 women called the Shanghai Women's Health Study. Pretty dramatic. And the EGCG, or the catechins that are in tea, also can help lower your blood pressure as well. So again, these are natural bioactives that reduce risk of disease by activating our defenses that keep our blood vessels healthy. Same thing as coffee. We found that coffee can actually also protect against angiogenesis. Tomatoes have lycopene. It's a great source of vitamin C and the lycopene. But the lycopene, which you may have heard about, can protect men against prostate cancer, actually lowers the risk of prostate cancer by about 30% if you have 2 to 3 cups of cooked tomato sauce, or 30 servings of cooked tomato sauce a week. Just about a half a cup a day of serving is actually enough.
I want to change the subject a little bit, Will, to stem cells. Now, we each have something like 37 trillion cells in our bodies. I mean, it's a truly huge number. And among those cells, there is a tiny, tiny subset that are our stem cells. And they're very important. It is our stem cells that allow our bodies to regenerate every day. It's our stem cells that maintain and repair our bodies throughout our entire lives. Will, what I want to ask you is, are there foods that boost regeneration of our stem cells? And is this important for diseases like cardiovascular diseases and dementia?
Yeah, John. So when I started, I was really, really fascinated, maybe the most fascinated by this new discovery that there are foods that can activate our stem cells. And just for your listeners, when we were growing up, we were told that starfish can regenerate and salamanders can regenerate, and people can't regenerate. And the reason is that those other creatures actually have these stem cells that can help grow arms and tails and limbs and things like that. Well, that textbook's been completely rewritten. As of now, kids are learning in their grade school that humans contain stem cells. And you don't have to look very far to discover a research article showing that stem cells are responsible for our hair growing back, our skin renewing itself and looking younger, our gut replenishing itself. And it turns out our liver can regenerate, our nerves can regenerate, even our lungs can regenerate, which is really fascinating. I was interested in what could we do using food to mobilize or activate our stem cells. And that's really where the surprises are. First is that the Mediterranean diet, which we know is so healthy in many, many ways, might be partly explained by the fact that people who eat the Mediterranean diet actually have as much as a 5-fold increase in a number of healthy stem cells that are just in the bloodstream. So for people that don't eat the Mediterranean diet, and this was studied in a clinical study, they had sort of baseline stem cells. Some is good, more is better, but people who ate the Mediterranean diet had 5 times more of these endothelial progenitor or stem cells that actually help our hearts stay strong, help our brains stay sharp, and help to regenerate the rest of our bodies and health as well. Another beverage is actually tea, believe it or not, can stimulate our stem cells in a positive way. So, for example, we know green tea is good for you, and green tea actually increases stem cells as well. But most people haven't talked about black tea. The English breakfast tea, the kind of tea that you're mostly served, when you go out someplace and somebody asks you if you have a cup of tea. It's usually not green tea, it's usually black tea. It turns out that black tea actually can increase the number of stem cells in your circulation by 56%. And that actually helps your blood vessels stay healthy, even if you have cardiovascular disease like hypertension or high blood pressure, and it improves your blood flow as well. And then the final kind of substance is that really kind of a stem cell mobilizer is what I call it. It's kind of a activator of our stem cells. I think a lot of your listeners are going to really enjoy this one, is actually cacao, which is what is used to make chocolate. I'm not telling people to eat a lot of chocolate, but what I am saying is that a research study that was done out of San Francisco showed that people who had really high flavanol containing cacao, plant-based seed, extracted in order to be able to make chocolate, if you made hot cocoa out of that and just drank 2 cups of hot cocoa a day for 30 days. This was a study in people with cardiovascular disease. They already had bad blood flow. People who had this cacao actually doubled the number of stem cells in their circulation and improved their blood flow. So these are just some examples that are in my book, Eat to Beat Disease, that actually show you just how powerful our foods are, not just for starving cancers by cutting off the blood supply, but also mobilizing our stem cells in order so that foods can actually help us regenerate.
Well, when you were talking about cacao and chocolate, I was thinking about how so much of the chocolate that's eaten today it's got dairy in it, it's got a lot of sugar in it, and how much better off we are rather than eating those forms of chocolate to eat the really dark chocolates. That's where we get the high concentration of the flavanols, and that's where we don't get the problems that ensue from eating dairy fats and sugar.
That's right. I always encourage people that I speak to always go for the dark chocolate. For health, you want the dark chocolate. So I think that if you look around places that sell chocolate now, the good news is that the chocolate manufacturers are becoming more sensitive to the needs of the public and the demands, indeed, of the public to look for chocolates that are actually darker. The darker it is, the better it is for you.
When I first shifted to dark chocolate many years ago, and I was starting to eat chocolates that were 60 and 70%, I found them bitter because I was used to really highly sweetened chocolates. Now I find them very sweet. As soon as you're above 70% and your dark chocolate, the sugar levels are very low. And with dark chocolate, it's not a dessert necessarily, it's a food.
Absolutely. I know a little tip for actually eating really dark chocolate if you're trying to, find a way to round out some of the bitter flavor. By the way, bitter is sometimes better because it's actually Mother Nature's way of saying there's something important in it that can activate your body's defenses. That's why some of the vegetables have a little bit of bitterness that are good for you as well. But, here's a little trick I have found, which is that if you have coffee, which is also good for you, you can actually have coffee and dark chocolate. They kind of complement each other and they make the coffee taste a little bit better, and the coffee actually rounds out some of the bitterness of the chocolate. So, two things that are both healthy for you that can go hand in hand.
Well, thank you for that suggestion and information. I want to talk to you about a vegetable that we hear touted a lot now for its health value, and I'm referring to kale. Many people had never heard of this vegetable 30 years ago, but now it's reached amazing levels of fame. I've seen t-shirts that say Kale University. The celebrity and entertainment magazine Us Weekly ran a feature titled Stars Who Love Kale. And there's a best-selling book called 50 Shades of Kale. You can buy kale at Walmart now. Even McDonald's is jumping on the bandwagon and has begun testing kale breakfast bowls in some of their California locations. What I want to ask you about is this all just hype, or does kale actually deserve its stunningly healthy reputation?
Kale actually deserves its healthy reputation. It's a member of a much larger group of vegetables that are cruciferous vegetables. And kale contains a lot of these bioactives that we started talking about, and at least six of them, but, honestly, probably hundreds of them that are out there. But, I've been looking at six of them, and one of them is called sulforaphane. And sulforaphanes, which actually smell like it sounds, sulfur, it's a sulfury kind of substance. If you look at some of the vegetables and you eat them raw, you can get a little bit of that sulfury flavor to it, actually are really, really powerful. Turns out that the sulforaphanes that are found in kale can actually reduce cancer genes by 50%. So one study showed that there were 63 genes associated with cancer that are cut in half by sulforaphanes found in kale. And on the other hand, the same sulforaphanes could actually increase the activity of cancer protective genes that suppress cancer. So think about what I just said. Kale, being kind of this, popularized food, contains bioactives. Those bioactives are activating your health defense systems. One of them is turning off cancer genes and turning on tumor suppressor genes, all in the direction that we hope our food helps our body protect itself. So, again, I told you kale is part of a family. There's no better place to look in than in a vegetarian cookbook, for example, for a variety of foods that are part of the cruciferous vegetables that contain these sulforaphanes that can help protect our genes.
Well, those include, as well as kale, collards and broccoli and cauliflower and all kinds of cabbages, red and Savoy and green and an arugula. It's a fabulous family. And when you were saying that the sulforaphane in these vegetables, in the cabbage family, have this effect on the genes that promote cancer by keeping them, blocking them or reducing their potency, and at the same time protecting us against cancer in other ways, I've been thinking about DNA and the fact that we've known for a while now, maybe 50 years, that our DNA is our genetic blueprint. But now, leading edge scientific research, and you are certainly at the forefront of this, we're discovering that DNA is more than that. We're learning that our DNA actually has repair mechanisms that protect us against damage caused by solar radiation and household chemicals and stress and compromised sleep, among other insults. And we're learning that DNA really is part of our healing systems. And so I want to ask you, Will, are there certain foods or food patterns that help our DNA to fix itself? Are there certain foods or food patterns that turn on helpful genes and turn off harmful ones?
Right. Well, so I write in my book that the way that most of us think about DNA is through ancestry or screening for cancer risk. Those are all really interesting and important ways of thinking about DNA. But what's really exciting is that discovery of foods that can activate our DNA's ability to protect itself. If you think about DNA as our blueprint, pretty much every protein that our body makes that makes us us actually is created by the DNA. And if that goes off the rails, if there's a mistake that occurs, then we actually immediately get into sort of the woods that can get us into trouble with mutations. And so the name of the game is to try to prevent DNA from going off the rails, right? You mentioned that our DNA suffers insult from things that we can't control. Just being on planet Earth means that we actually are at risk for damaging our DNA. So, not surprisingly, our DNA is one of our body's health defense mechanisms. And what's great news for those who want to take part in the food revolution is that there are foods that can actually activate our DNA repair mechanism.
We're learning all the time more about the healing power of foods, whole foods. We have become accustomed in our culture to eating a lot of processed foods, manufactured foods that have been called by some food-like substances because they don't have the same levels of the bioactives. They have been adulterated. They've been subjected to processing that reduces a lot of their nutrients. And I'm thinking about the effect of our diets on our telomeres. Now, our telomeres are, as you well know, the protective DNA caps that slow the aging process. And the longer they are, the longer and healthier our lives will tend to be. Some of the speakers in this summit, including Dean Ornish, have conducted research and have found that a whole foods plant-based diet and other healthy lifestyle choices can actually help to lengthen our telomeres and thus to slow the aging process. Will, is your research compatible with that? Does that correspond to what you're finding?
Absolutely. Telomeres are part of our DNA defense mechanisms for our health. And as you described, the telomeres are really kind of the protective caps at the end of our chromosomes. An analogy that's been given is like the plastic cap on the end of a shoelace that protects the whole shoelace from being worn down and frayed. Think about telomeres as that protective cap. And so as we get older, our telomeres naturally shorten. They just kind of, like a real shoelace, they kind of get worn out, they get shorter, and eventually you just wind up with pure lace and things start fraying and really breaking down. So what we want to do is actually to protect our telomeres. The body does it automatically. So we actually have our own anti-aging kind of defense system hardwired into our bodies, but it obviously doesn't work as well as we need it to sometimes. So enter food. And this is where my friend and colleague, Dean Ornish, has really done some amazing work with Nobel Prize winner Elizabeth Blackburn in San Francisco, where they did look at whole plant-based diets, and they found that, and it's not just a diet; it was also lifestyle that actually improved prevented shortening of telomeres, and in fact, lengthened the telomeres. Now, I will tell you that we have done complementary studies that have actually looked at specific ingredients that people eat as well. One of them is coffee. And it turns out that in a big study of 521,000 men and women in Europe, this is called the EPIC study, and indeed it was epic in terms of its size. They looked at who was drinking caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee, and they actually found that in both men and women, coffee drinkers actually had less death. In fact, reducing anywhere from 7 to 12% reduction of death from any cause. It wasn't due to the caffeine in the coffee, it was due to the bioactives that are found in the coffee bean itself. Again, plant-based. It actually is brewed in order to be able to get those bioactives, hundreds of bioactives into a cup of coffee. And then it was found, furthermore, that when you actually drank coffee, drinking more coffee is associated with longer telomeres. So there's something in the bioactives in a coffee that actually lengthens your telomeres. And in fact, it was shown that drinking 1 cup of coffee a day does, in fact, already slow aging. Now, that was a European study. In Asia, where people drink less coffee but drink a lot of tea, it was even found even in older people. Remember, we're talking about telomeres and aging. So a study that was done at the University of Hong Kong looked at almost 2,000 people, men and women, 65 and older. So they're looking at people that are already sort of in the last quarter of their lives, already aging, and found that people who drank more tea, especially elderly men, actually had longer telomeres as well. So again, it's not just young people that benefit from this. As you get older, you can still keep on protecting your telomeres. And some people say, well, I'm not really a fan of coffee or tea. I would then call out, well, what about nuts and seeds? Because another study have actually shown, and this was a study called the PREDIMED study, studied 7,400 healthy people in Spain who are at risk for heart disease. And what they actually found is that eating about 1 tablespoon of nuts. So what's a tablespoon of nuts? About 9 cashews, 7 walnuts, 6 almonds, or maybe 4 teaspoons of pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. They found that you could actually, having 3 servings of nuts, reduce mortality by 39% compared to people who didn't eat any nuts. So again, when they actually looked at their telomeres, they actually shown that the eating those nuts actually increased their telomeres and slowed the aging of their cells. So again, what I like to do, John and Ocean, is I believe that when it comes to studying food, to understand this revolution, we can't just study individual chemicals. We can't just study even individual foods. We can't just go into the lab. We have to go into real communities and real people and study how people really benefit at the human clinical health level. And this is really what I've been talking about. There's no single way to prove black and white that any one food actually does the job to eliminate all disease. But what happens is that when you actually combine the evidence and look at different ways that researchers have examined what's in food and how it works in the body and how it activates the body's defense systems, we have an entirely new approach to understanding not only health defenses, but even anti aging, which is where telomeres come in.
When you talk about an entirely new approach, it's very exciting. We're really here on the leading edge of scientific research. And there have been recent discoveries, and I know you've been part of these, that are changing our understanding of the immune system. We're learning, for example, that the immune system can be manipulated to successfully attack and wipe out certain cancers, even in the elderly. And you say in your book that foods like blackberries and walnuts and pomegranate, those are the ones you mentioned in specific, can activate our immune systems. Can you explain?
Yeah, so you mentioned three of my favorite foods: blackberries and pomegranate and walnuts. I mean, there's so many good things that you can do with those foods if you're preparing them, and if you're just eating them just straight off, they're also great. They all share a common denominator, and that common denominator is a bioactive called ellagic acid. It's what makes blackberries a little tart and pomegranates a little tart, and even walnuts have a little tartness. But ellagic acid is really kind of what has been discovered to be beneficial for the immune system. Now, let me just say that ellagic acid doesn't only benefit the immune system, it also helps us stop tumor blood vessels. It also is helpful in your microbiome. It also has a beneficial effect to protect your DNA. But when it comes to immunity, it's really amazing. So, what ellagic acid does is it actually helps your body uncloak the camouflage that cancer cells produce in order to hide from your immune system. So it's kind of like ripping off that disguise of cancer cells that ellagic acid helps to do. And then your immune system can spot those bad guys and take them out. In the lab, when this has been studied in mice with bladder cancer, when ellagic acid has been given to them, in other words, ripping off the camouflage, hiding the cancers, that what the cancers are using to hide themselves, and allowing the natural immune system to take off and do its job to remove that tumor, you can suppress tumor growth by about 61%. And here's the target of ellagic acid: is something called PDL1. That same PDL1 is in fact the target of some of these new breakthrough cancer treatments called immunotherapies. So, there are people now that are fortunate enough to actually be diagnosed with cancer, receive an immune therapy, never have to get chemotherapy ever. And by ripping off that cloak, that disguise, that camouflage from the cancer, and allowing a patient's undisturbed immune system to seek out and destroy the cancer cells, they can actually overcome their cancer, even if it's actually metastatic. I've known a number of patients who have benefited like that and never have to receive chemotherapy. That's the changing game in terms of cancer. And what's really amazing is that now we're discovering that ellagic acid can have a similar effect. And maybe we should be having more foods, more plant-based foods with ellagic acid, particularly in people who might be at risk for cancer, which is pretty much everyone.
It is pretty much everyone. Really, all of us have microscopic cancers developing in our bodies pretty much all the time. So I've often wondered why it is that some of us develop cancer and others of us don't. And clearly, there are a lot of factors involved in that, but part of that is what we eat.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. We've got, almost 40 trillion cells in the body, and they are dividing all the time. And we know that all any one of these cells has to do is to make a mistake when they're dividing. 40 trillion cells all cranking as fast as they can. One or two mistakes, and you wind up having a cancer. These cancers are abnormal cells, mutated cells, cells that made a mistake that are no longer normal. They're abnormal. In fact, they're cancer cells, but they can't grow any bigger than about the tip of a ballpoint pen. It's a couple of millimeters because they lack a blood supply. So there's no way that they can actually get enough oxygen or nutrients to actually expand. It's really at that point where our immune system is able to conduct surveillance. Think about your neighborhood police driving at night across the neighbor, down through the roads, just making sure the neighborhood is quiet and all is safe. That's what they do when they see a prowler, in this case, a tiny little microscopic cancer lurking. They will just, call in the troops. They'll call in for backup, and they'll just take out and remove these tiny little millimeter-sized cancers. The cancers don't have a blood supply. The immune system takes them out, and we're done. And really, what's amazing is that this kind of thing happens in all of our bodies. We know, for example, on average, there are 10,000 mistakes that our DNA makes every single day. So why don't we get more clinical cancer? Why don't we wake up tomorrow with a brain tumor? Well, hopefully most of us don't. But the reason is because our immune system is ramped up as that health defense. Remember, I was telling you, it's sort of firing in all pistons every single day while we're asleep, while we're awake, cleaning up all the garbage and cleaning up all the mistakes that are happening in our body. And foods can actually activate them. So, we talked about, some of my favorites, the blackberries, the walnuts, the pomegranates. But it turns out that mushrooms can also do the same thing. Even the lowly, simple white button mushroom. Turns out that researchers in Australia have studied that if you ate just about a cup and a third of white button mushrooms every day for about a week, and you test your immunity by looking in your saliva. So we're not talking about poking a needle to get blood. We're talking about just doing looking at your saliva. You can find that eating a cup and a third of mushrooms per day for a week increases the amount of antibodies, immune system antibodies, by 55% after about a week. And it'll actually continue even when you stop eating the mushrooms for another couple of weeks, it'll still stay elevated. So again, this is the power of food to ramp up our natural defenses from head to toe, jack up our immune system, get it ready to do what it's doing, protect our bodies. And other researchers have looked at not just white button mushrooms, they've looked at other ones that you can find commonly in the grocery store, the shiitake mushrooms or the oyster mushrooms, the common mushrooms that everybody finds these days, even in the basic grocery store, have immune boosting benefits. And then I'll tell you one last one that's really amazing to me is really broccoli sprouts. There's really quite an interesting interest now in looking at sprouting foods, the living foods. And I love putting sprouts on my salads and, even topping other foods that, I might be cooking. I might sprinkle some sprouts on top of that. Well, broccoli sprouts, again, broccoli being a member of the cruciferous vegetables that kale also belongs to, and containing those sulforaphanes that we actually talked about being so beneficial to be able to actually help protect our DNA. It turns out that broccoli sprouts, the baby broccoli sprouts, have 100 times more sulforaphane than a full-grown adult broccoli. The little sprouts have 100 times more, and if you eat them and you chew them, you release all these sulforaphanes. So what was really amazing is research that was actually done at the University of North Carolina, in which they took young people who were exposed to the flu virus, and they wanted to kind of see how their bodies responded to, getting a flu shot. And what they found is that in people, young kids, healthy kids who actually ate broccoli sprouts, and they made the broccoli sprouts into a shake. Really simple, just put it into a blender, make a shake out of it, and they drank the shake. Young people who drank broccoli sprout shake had 22 times more of immune cells in their blood compared to people who had a placebo that had no broccoli sprouts. When the researchers swabbed the noses to look for the flu virus, those who actually had the broccoli sprouts had much fewer, like almost non-existent flu virus in their noses. So again, what a simple way, what a delicious way, what a common sense way for us to actually use plant-based foods.
Indeed, indeed. And when you mentioned broccoli sprouts and that you like to put sprouts on the foods that you're eating, are there other sprouts, as well as broccoli sprouts, that you have found to have some of these profound healing benefits?
Most young sprouting vegetables also contain higher levels of these bioactives. And they may be different bioactives, but they tend to be sort of at that growth phase, coming out of the seed and kind of sprouting out where a lot of energy is required. And that's where they're kind of powering up their natural bioactive chemicals. So, I enjoy bean sprouts. There's a lot of different types of sprouts that are out there.
Well, broccoli sprouts are to be celebrated for sure. And thank you for informing us of the power that they have to benefit all of us. I want to ask you about one other system in the body, and that is the microbiome. Now, we have thought in the past in our society of bacteria as an enemy. But of course, the reality is that most of the bacteria in our bodies, in our microbiome, act to defend our health. They produce metabolites from the foods that we eat that are very health supporting. They fortify our immune systems and they produce hormones that influence our brains and can have profound effects on our moods. So, what I want to ask you, Will, is are there specific foods that support the health of our microbiome? And what about the importance of fiber? 95% of the people in the United States do not get enough. They don't even reach their minimum daily requirement of fiber. And what effect is that having on our microbiomes?
Yeah, well, 20 years ago, we talked about fiber and cholesterol and having more regular bowel movements. We now know that there's an entirely new and really a more powerful way to think about the value of fiber, and that relates to our microbiome. So, as we've been talking about these defense systems, the microbiome actually is a healthy bacteria that grows everywhere in our bodies, on our skin, in our mouths, through our entire digestive tract. There's a huge population of them, kind of the Manhattan of microbiome of gut bacteria that's actually in our colon. And it turns out that these bacteria not only are healthy residents in our body, they communicate with our immune system as well. So a healthy microbiome means a healthy immune system. So how do we keep our microbiome healthy? Well, there's three very simple ways. The first is you can feed the microbiome. You want to feed the good bacteria. Turns out that plant-based foods like fruits and vegetables and whole grains that actually have a lot of fiber to them, that we eat those foods and we absorb a lot of the nutrients that can go into our bloodstream. And the fiber that we used to talk about, better for our bowel movements, actually feed the bacteria. So the first thing that we can do is to have fibrous foods to feed our microbiome. Now, what our bacteria does with the food that we're feeding them, the fiber, is that they break it down into these smaller pieces that activate our immune system. They calm inflammation. They can regulate our blood sugar. They can do all kinds of things. They can even like suppress cancer. And so we want to feed our microbiome. The second thing that we can do is we can add more healthy bacteria into our body. Some of the foods that actually have healthy bacteria are these fermented foods. Often they have a little bit of sourness to them. So sourdough bread turns out to have a lactobacillus. It's a kind of bacteria that actually gives it the flavor. It's been passed down over generations. So I now look at sourdough bread as sort of my bread of choice because I know it's better for my microbiome. But also things like sauerkraut. Sauerkraut's cabbage, which is a cruciferous vegetable. We know it has good bioactives in it, but sauerkraut, slice it up really thin and you let it kind of pickle, bacteria grow in it. And then kimchi is another one that's really good for you. It's a kind of a spicy food. So you can actually add more bacteria to your body's well. Now, listeners are always really interested in some practical information on some foods that can also be helpful to the microbiome. And I will tell you, one of my favorite foods that actually have fiber are beans, specifically navy beans or black beans. And there's been researchers that have looked at the ability for navy beans or black beans to increase healthy gut bacteria. And what's been shown is if you feed mice in the lab with black beans or navy beans, and you just study their bacteria in their gut just by collecting the stool and measuring them, you can actually get a 71-fold increase. a massive amount of increase in healthy gut bacteria, and you can also get a decrease in inflammation.
When you were talking about beans just now, and you mentioned in specific navy beans and black beans, I've seen research that the darker colored beans, such as those that you mentioned, are in some ways the most health promoting in terms of our microbiome. And there is a particular other bean that you didn't mention. It's a small, dark red bean, Japanese bean originally, called sometimes aduki, sometimes adzuki beans, that also have the same remarkable benefits for our microbiome. Are you familiar with that bean?
None of them I'm familiar with. It's one of my favorite beans. Since I was a kid, I've been having those adzuki beans. Anybody who's ever traveled to Asia, you'll know that it's served in many, many different ways. Sometimes it's served even as a dessert. I mean, imagine having beans for dessert, and that's what happens in Asia. They're little, tiny, potent pockets of health that you can actually have, packed with fiber, lots of protein, and they're really just a great source. And they taste great as well. So I'm so glad you mentioned them. About color, it is absolutely true. Whatever is darker in color tends to have been colored by Mother Nature to contain more of these bioactives. Dark pigments tend to be bioactives, and that's why dark colored foods, when you actually see, dark red cherries or dark tomato skin or blueberries, the deeper, the darker the color, the more likely there is some bioactive that's actually at high concentrations.
You know, your new book, Eat to Beat Disease, is subtitled The New Science of How the Body Can Heal Itself. And I want to thank you, Will, for writing that book, for doing the research that you've done, for sharing the information and the wisdom that you're gleaning in such a practical way with so many people. And it's benefiting so many people's health, and that is so important. And I really appreciate you for all that you're doing and how you share that message as well. And I want to thank you for your participation in our Food Revolution Summits and, of course, for being with us again today.
Well, thank you, John and Ocean. It's always a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to continuing to spread the word about how to eat to beat disease.
We've been talking with Dr. William Li, founding president of the Angiogenesis Foundation and author of Eat to Beat Disease, the new science of how your body can heal itself. Will, your research is exhilarating, it's practical, and for many people, it could even be life-changing. We are so grateful for your research, for your eloquent leadership, and for your partnership in the food revolution.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. William Li and to my dad and colleague, John Robbins, for that fascinating conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcasts page. Make sure to refresh those comments using the button you'll find there so you can see the most recent comments that have been shared. Our next presentation will be an interview with Chris Wark. It will start at the top of the hour in about 12 minutes, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern, 4 p.m. GMT, followed by Anthony William at the top of the hour after that. And now I'm going to share and respond to a few of the comments that we've been hearing. Debbie Cummings said, I'm thrilled to finally catch you live, especially today. Due to my recent cancer diagnosis, I am digging deep to find anything and everything I can to heal. My type is supposedly incurable, but I refuse to believe that as fact. With the research I've personally done, combined with the wealth of information in your summits, I'm incredibly hopeful that I'll beat the odds and show the doctors that there's always hope if you change your life. I have no doubt. Thanks for all you do to change the world. I've been a huge fan of these guys, so I'm extra grateful they're part of your lineup today. Well, thank you, Debbie, so much. I'm so glad you are in this journey. Thank you for sharing what you're going through, and we all send our love and our prayers and wish for you complete and total healing in every cell and in every way. You know, one of the things that cancer does for so many people is alert us to our mortality. And for everybody who is listening, whether you have ever had a cancer diagnosis or not, I'm sure you know people who have. And you've probably even lost people to cancer. And one of the things this does is it helps us to not take each other or our lives for granted. Every day is precious. And when we lean into the preciousness of the life that we have, when we make the most of it, it expands, it grows. Life becomes richer and fuller and more beautiful. What we appreciate appreciates. So I think in the presence of mortality, we can either shrink into fear or we can expand into life. And my personal belief is that when we expand into life, all of us are richer because of it. Christy de Cesar said, I have my notebook and pen in hand. Every year I learn so much and try to set an example on healthy eating. I then can pass on the knowledge that this summit has given me. Thank you for this wonderful knowledge. Well, Christy, I'm so glad you are diving in and taking notes and absorbing it. That's why we do this, so that we can share it and so you can have the benefit of it. So wonderful. Thank you. Congratulations for being here. Giselle Lavadini said, today is a bank holiday in Brazil, and as much as I loved my family, I decided to stay home to listen to the summit instead of going to a barbecue full of meat and seeing them poison themselves. Well, Giselle, we love your family. I'm sure they miss you, but I'm glad you're with us. This is maybe another kind of a family in a way, the Food Revolution movement, all of us joining together, learning, growing, discovering, and supporting each other in standing for health. And maybe someday that barbecue will have some other options. Maybe you'll help bring them. Who knows? We're so glad you're here. Florence Staple said, thank you so much for this important info. You will be blessings for my grandchildren. Wow, Florence. That is beautiful. Thank you. I hope so. And we send our love to your grandchildren, whether they are alive currently or not. Barbara Lloyd said, I just realized I only got today's recipe printed. Is it possible to get the other earlier days? Yes, Barbara. Under the link to the recipe of the day on our broadcasts and replays page, today's recipe of the day, for example, is California Cobb salad. It's amazingly delicious. Underneath that, you'll find a link for all the summit recipes of the day in light blue. So if you click on that, you can see previous day's recipes and print them off as well. They are delicious. Alexa Pongras said, I have had breast cancer, 1996 and 2017. They spent the whole year checking out nodules in my right lung. A year of blueberries and Brussels sprouts, still two of my favorite foods. I go for another checkup in October this year. I love this seminar. It specializes in practical solutions and hope. Yes, Alexa. Well, our love and prayers to you in your healing journey, and hooray for the blueberries and the Brussels sprouts. And I think you're going to learn a whole bunch from Chris Wark too in a little bit, so make sure to stay tuned. Bobby Hansen said, wow, I have loved this information and have been trying to start over again. I have eliminated several toxic foods from my life for years, but I have to admit I allow some to stay around as die-hard staples. No more. This summit has definitely given me a shot in the arm. I need to start a revolution within my family. I have 7 children and 22 grandchildren. We can make quite a statement and a difference. I even encourage the kids I teach at school to eat more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans. I've seen firsthand what diet is doing to thousands of kids I teach. It's scary. Thank you. Well, Bobby, thank you for teaching and touching the future in that way. We are grateful to you. And thank you for sharing what you're learning about healthy food with the next generation and the generation after that with your kids, your grandkids, your students. It is so, so important. I'm a dad myself, and I know how much it matters that we prepare the next generation and in some ways inoculate the next generation, because in a toxic food culture, it's like kids don't really have an immune system. Nothing in them prepared them to be given foods by their parents or by their society that taste good, but that turn out to be toxic for them. And so it's up to us to protect them and to support them, and as early as possible to empower them with some information so that they can make informed choices. And I'll say a lot of kids, in my experience, are not super motivated by health concerns. Sometimes they are, but younger people tend to be more motivated by issues like concern about the future of life on this planet, concern about the treatment of animals, Because the truth is, and we can all kind of relate to this, we tend to think we're going to live forever until we realize we won't. And a lot of people at a young age just think they will, and that's natural for a lot of folks. So, of course, the health concerns are important to bring in, but just keep in mind that sometimes the best doorway may be caring about the world around them as well. And now I want to share with you a pre-recorded message that moved me deeply. It's from Dr. Pat Spenceley. Dr. Spenceley is a family practice doctor from Newberg, Oregon. He participated in one of our past summits, and what he learned helped inspire him to make changes that led him to lose 50 pounds and to change his practice of medicine. Dr. Spenceley is an inspiring example to doctors everywhere. Here is his story in his own words.
Hi, my name is Pat Spenceley. I'm a family practice doctor. I'm 51 years old, and I practice in a small community office called Villa Medical in Newberg, Oregon. As I learned through the Food Revolution interviews that John Robbins performed, the things that really impacted you and I in our regular everyday life, I realized that the nutritional training that I got in medical school was just completely inadequate to function as a effective preventative physician. And the information that I learned at the Food Revolution not only changed my own personal lifestyle, but has helped me be much more effective as a communicator, as a physician. Brenda and I have been following a plant-based nutrition program now for a little over a year. I initially made the effort to change because of health reasons. I was suffering from asthma and using a very expensive injection that was given in my arms every 2 weeks, and still suffering from asthma bad enough to need to use prednisone several times over a year's period of time. I enabled myself to eat more plants, and in doing so, realized that the animal-based foods were just not to my liking. My health improved, my energy level is much better. I've lost over 50 pounds, and I feel that I'm going to live a longer, healthier life. As a physician, when people asked me prior to learning the material that John Robbins introduced me to, I was only able to provide patients with advice about medications, perhaps a referral to see a dietitian. Now I'm able to talk to them with enthusiasm about osteoporosis, about preventing cancer, about how to stay away from being diabetic, hypertensive, obese, to deal with their cholesterol in an effective way with a far less reliance on the drugs and the procedures. I feel that I am much more healthy. I've lost over 50 pounds. My energy level couldn't be better. I'm now able to swim 20,000 yards every week. I look and feel better, and I think I'm going to live a far healthier life.
Thank you so much to Dr. Spenceley for sharing those words and for not only putting his learnings into practice in his life, which is extraordinary, but also, of course, bringing it into his medical practice. We need this. And it is interesting how many of our doctors are themselves struggling with these same issues. And, we practice what we preach, and we preach what we practice. And when somebody has a block to changing their own personal choices, they're going to have a very hard time really getting on board and passionately endorsing healthy eating with their patients. So how beautiful that Dr. Spenceley could apply this and gain the benefits, and now he's a living, walking, embodied example of what can happen when we practice healthy eating. Thank you, Dr. Spenceley. We heard from Chu Peng Ling from Malaysia, who wrote, "I've been following since day one, stopping frequently in between my cooking and household chores to take notes. I even sacrifice my afternoon naps, but the immense amount of invaluable information is more than worth it. Many of my questions have been answered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm excited to share with my family and my friends. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your good works towards humanity." Well, Ling, thank you so much for participating and joining us. We are so glad you're here from Malaysia. And you won't have to be taking notes in quite so feverishly anymore, or necessarily sacrificing naps anymore, because you are going to own the empowerment package. Our team will follow up with you. We're going to gift you with the MP3s, the transcripts, the recordings of the entire summit, plus the action checklists with specific actionable tips you can apply right away in your life. So congratulations. You'll also have the bonuses, and now it'll be even easier for you to share it all with your family and your friends. And for everybody else listening, the Empowerment Package is a fabulous resource. We're about to move to the next segment of our broadcast, an interview with Chris Wark on how Chris beat cancer. But first, a quick word about the Empowerment Package. No matter where you come from or what you've been through, the simple truth is you are meant to thrive. You deserve boundless energy, a clear mind, and a lean and healthy body. You deserve to feel confident and clear about what you eat and why. The Food Revolution Summit is packed with insights, and trying to catch and absorb all of them can be hard. That's why we created the Empowerment Package. With your Empowerment Package, you can own the entire summit, plus all the transcripts and loads of bonus materials for life. Absorb this life-changing material at a pace that's comfortable and easy for you. Join this movement. Support this mission. Buy your Empowerment Package today. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Chris Wark. Chris Wark is a blogger, a podcaster, a speaker, a global health coach, and author of the international bestseller, Chris Beat Cancer, a comprehensive plan for healing naturally. In 2003, at age 26, Chris was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. He was told he had a 60% chance of surviving another 5 years. Using nutrition and natural therapies, he experienced profound healing, remains fully healthy, and has been sharing his story since 2010. Chris reaches millions of people every year at smoothie bars, health and wellness events, hospitals, churches, culinary schools, conferences, and his wildly popular website, chrisbeatcancer.com. His mission is to help people take control of their health and reverse disease with a radical transformation of diet and lifestyle. So now, Chris, we're so grateful for this time with you. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. And thank you, Chris, for being with us once again.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. It's always a thrill to talk to you both. And I love the Food Revolution. And all I can say is, let's do this.
Well, yes, let us do this. You have had an amazing journey that began, in a sense, as Ocean just mentioned, when you were 26 and were diagnosed with cancer. Your path has led you from there to a level of health that you might have never otherwise known was possible. And it has also brought you to prominence as an advocate and inspiration for those who find themselves on an unexpected journey with cancer and who often, on a daily basis, face fear, suffering, and uncertainty. Chris, can you tell us about some of the twists and turns that you've experienced on your path?
Yeah, being diagnosed with cancer at 26, it just sucks. Like, there's no other way to say it. It was terrible. It was scary. I felt like my life was over. I was faced with my own mortality and wondering how many birthdays I had left. And being a newlywed and being sort of a young go-getter, entrepreneur, real estate investor, a musician. I mean, I had all these big dreams. And all of a sudden, all my big dreams sort of evaporated, and I really only cared about one thing, and that was getting well. And the process for me was pretty crazy, and I've been on the Food Revolution Summit a couple times, and so some of your audience has heard my story. But I was rushed into surgery, and they took out the tumor, and they said it's worse than we thought. You're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. And I made a decision to forego chemotherapy, to opt out, because I didn't have a peace about it. It didn't make sense to me. I couldn't wrap my mind around how the toxic drug was going to make me better. I knew it would make me worse. And I had an innate sense that the way I was living was killing me. I had this revelation. And so I realized, well, drugs aren't going to fix me. Like, I need to fix me, and I need to change my whole life. And so that's what I set about doing, is radically change my diet, change my attitude, started to forgive people who had hurt me, forgave everyone who'd ever hurt me. And, and just went through this process of self-transformation in order to survive. I had a really strong will to live, and it was like, I'm going to do whatever I need to do, whatever it takes to help my body heal. And anything that could possibly help me, I was like, give it to me. And anything that had potential for harm, I basically, like chemotherapy, I basically said, listen, that's for another time, maybe later, not right now. And I got well. So spoiler, I got well. I was diagnosed in 2003. So if anybody is quick with the math, here we are, 2019. It's been just had my 15-year cancerversary. And the funny thing about my story to me is, like, I didn't want to be a health and wellness guy. I didn't have any intention of writing a book or starting a website or a blog or anything like that. I wanted to get back to my normal life. Like, I wanted to get away from cancer and go back to real estate, back to playing music. Like, I wanted to go back to my old life that I had before cancer. But I also realized along the way that, like, I can't go back to my old life. Like, was part of the problem. And after my 5-year cancer-free mark, I realized, man, gosh, I should probably share my story. I should probably tell people what I went through. And I know somebody out there needs to hear this. I know this is going to encourage somebody. And then it just kind of mushroomed after that.
Well, it did.
Just all started with one blog post.
Yes, it did, and it has, and you're now an inspiration for millions. And a sloppy Joe, of all things, played a role in igniting you on a different path than you would have thought you would have taken.
Yes, the manwich. Yeah, the first meal they served me in the hospital after cutting out a third of my large intestine was a sloppy Joe, which was so surprising. And just, I just couldn't believe they were serving this kind of food to sick people in the hospital. It was just like, what in the world? This is terrible. And I knew what health food was. I wasn't eating health food, but I knew the difference between healthy food and junk food, and this sort of bottom of the barrel industrial cafeteria food, which is what they were serving to me as a cancer patient. And it was, it was eye-opening for sure. And even the surgeon, who cut my third of my intestines out, when I asked him if there's any food I should avoid, he said, no, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
That's almost flippant response.
It was flippant. He was saying in so many words, it doesn't matter what you eat. Diet has nothing to do with disease. Go home and eat whatever you want, right? Just don't strain yourself, right? Don't lift anything heavy. And I had the same message from the first oncologist I saw. Told me if I didn't do chemo, I was insane. And the tragedy that in the cancer industry really is that patients are told there's nothing they did to contribute to their disease, and therefore there's nothing they can do to help themselves. And they're led to believe that their only hope is surgery, chemo, radiation, and that's it. There's nothing they can do. And they become powerless victims. And so one of my big missions, if not my biggest mission, is to give people their power back, to help the world understand, and cancer patients or people who are serious about prevention, help them understand there's so much you can do to help yourself. Your choices matter. What you eat every day produces either health or disease in your body. And, exercise is amazing. Your thought life, your emotions, your stress, like all of this plays into your health, and they're all things you can control. And you're not a powerless victim. So that's what I'm trying to do, John.
Yes, and you're conveying this in so many ways, that people aren't powerless victims, and you're hoping to return their sense of power to their own hearts, to their own diets and health choices and life choices. But many cancer patients, by some accounts, up to 90%, simply take their doctor's advice about the proper treatment of their disease. They don't seek a second opinion. They don't check out treatment options. And the main reason for this attitude is fear of the disease, fear of delaying urgent treatments, fear of angering doctors, and fear of the bad news they might find if they were to search on the internet. Chris, how did you deal with the fear that you must have felt when you were first diagnosed? And how can people respond to the fear that they will experience when receiving an unwanted diagnosis and use it to empower themselves?
Man, that's such a good question. Fear is a huge factor in cancer, and it is unfortunately many doctors use fear to manipulate and motivate patients to say yes to treatments they don't understand, and they're rushed into treatment, as I was. And so, I mean, some patients literally they'll have them in chemo like a day or two after their diagnosis. They're starting chemo. I mean, it's just a whirlwind. And so I'm just fortunate that it wasn't like that for me. They wanted to have surgery first, and then I had time to really think and reflect on my life and read and research. But the fear was still there, and I still had to deal with it every single day. So one thing I think that dispels fear is education, right? You've heard everybody says knowledge is power, and what happens is when you read and research, you become informed, and that builds confidence. And when you have confidence in your choices, it diminishes your fear, right? And I created a free download for cancer patients called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist. And that gives them the right questions to ask, because most patients have no idea what they're getting into, and they're asking the wrong questions. They're just asking like, am I going to lose my hair? Or am I going to get sick? Am I going to have to take off work? Right? They're not asking the important questions like, is this treatment going to cure my cancer? Yes or no? And there's a lot more that they should be asking. So even though it's scary and a lot of people want to put their head in the sand and cross their fingers and hope for the best, that is, I would just say, an unwise approach to a life-threatening disease. And the people that I see who survive, who do well, who survive and thrive after cancer are the ones that have the big epiphany, the big light bulb, and they're like, whoa, like the way I'm living is killing me. Like I've got to change my life. I need to take the reins, right? And figure out how I can help myself survive. And that's what I call the beat cancer mindset, is accepting total responsibility for your life and your health. But back to the fear thing, for me, every day, fear was always creeping in, because every single day I'm wondering, am I getting better? Am I getting worse? You're not having blood work every day. You're not getting scans every day. So you live in between those scans. And in between the scans is when you're dealing with fear, anxiety, and doubt. And so I just would constantly give my fear to God. And I just say, God, I trust you. You're in control. Like, I'm not going to be afraid. Like, I'm not going to let fear steal my joy. I'm not going to let anxiety and worry steal my joy. I'm just going to give it to you, and I trust you. I'm going to do everything I can do and trust you with the rest. And so that's really what got me through, is that daily practice of just laying down my fear and educating myself, reading and researching. Because, man, once I dug into nutritional science and started finding other people who had healed cancer naturally and learning, it got me more and more excited and confident about what I was doing. And that was worth, I mean, I can't even tell you how much that was worth to me at the time.
You spoke just now about accepting total responsibility for your life and your health and taking the reins. Accepting total responsibility for your health when you have cancer might strike some people as blaming themselves for having gotten cancer. I know you don't mean it that way, but some people might take it that way. So what do you mean by accepting responsibility, and why is it important?
Yeah, it does. It sounds like blame, like, and there's a big sort of movement generally in the world, don't blame the victim, right? Don't blame the victim. That it started with, sexual assault and things, but it's also infiltrated the cancer community that we're victims. It's not our fault. How dare you uh, uh, suggest that anything I did had something to do with my current situation in life or my disease. But and the last thing I want to do is hurt anyone's feelings or or shame anyone or make them feel bad about themselves or blame them. That's not the intention. But here's the reality. The reality is we know what's causing cancer. The standard American diet, a diet that's rich in meat and dairy, processed food, junk food, sugar, salt, and oils. That is a diet that promotes many types of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and other chronic diseases. So up to 90% of cancers are caused by diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors. So even though your doctors don't tell you this, this is published research. It's not just one study. It's, building on decades and decades and decades of research and studies on the causes of cancer in the world. So when I looked at my life, I realized, oh, well, I've been eating an unhealthy diet, right? I've been unknowingly poisoning and polluting my body with inflammatory food and unhealthy food that has changed my body into a state, an environment where cancer can thrive. But the good news behind this is that if what you were doing contributed to your disease, that means that you can change what you're doing and contribute to your health. So me saying the way I was living is killing me was actually a very powerful and positive revelation in my life. And that's what I try to help other people also have. And that's the way I try to get people to think, right? Hey, listen, it's not your fault. You didn't know any better, but you weren't taking care of yourself. And over many years, you went down this path that degraded your health to the point to where your body became a place where cancer could thrive. The biggest difference between cancer patients or someone with cancer and someone who doesn't have cancer is their immune system. And your immune system, if you're healthy, is identifying and eliminating thousands of cancer cells every day. And so cancer is a very natural and normal process in the body, and your body's designed to identify these rogue cells, mutated cells, and kill them. But if you are chronically inflamed, if you are immunosuppressed, if you are nutrient deficient, all of the above, then your immune system starts to fail. It's not working properly, it's overloaded, and then cancer can take root and start to grow and multiply and spread. Again, these are our choices. It's not about being unlucky, right, or a victim. It's just about the choices we've made. So I hope that makes sense. It's not me trying to beat people up or make them feel ashamed or anything like that. It's just like, hey, we got to wake up here. Like we wake up and smell the coffee, right? Like this is your life. This is a situation you're in. There are causes. We know what they are. It's pretty probable what the causes in your life are. And let's change everything and eliminate these cancer promoters and cancer causes from your life and empower your body to heal.
What you're saying reminds me, it does make sense to me. And it reminds me of the Serenity Prayer, where we ask for the courage to change the things we can and the serenity to accept the things that we can't change and the wisdom to know the difference. And what I hear you saying is one of the things we can change very often in a dramatic way in terms of its impact on our health is the food that we're eating. And I'm thinking of something you wrote in your book that I found really important. I want to quote it. You said, "Your body is made of trillions of cells, almost all of which are dying and being replaced continually throughout your life. Your intestines are regenerated every 2 to 3 days. Your taste buds take 10 days. Your skin and lung take 2 to 4 weeks, and your red blood cells take 4 months. Your body is a perpetual construction site, and your body is built with the food you eat. That's it. You built your body. You are what you ate." Chris, is this one of the reasons you're so passionate about the role of food in preventing and in healing cancer?
Yep. It's true. I mean, this is what's happening in our bodies every day. Cells are dying, cells are being replaced. And so when you give your body optimal nutrition, which is food from the earth, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, like all this wonderful food that comes from the earth that was made for us, it thrives. It's not rocket science. It's actually very, very simple concept that I think most people, when they hear it, they're like, yeah, gosh, that does make a lot of sense. If I went back to eating a diet that was just food from the earth, that wasn't processed or adulterated or manufactured, right? And it didn't involve killing a whole bunch of animals, maybe that would help me. And so that's kind of where it starts. It's just like entertaining the possibility that maybe your diet is causing your disease.
You've said that the safest approach for someone wanting to heal cancer is to stay off all animal products for the first phase of their healing journey, which is at least 90 days and maybe for several years, and that the best anti-cancer diet is plant-based. You've talked about something that you call meat lovers bias, when doctors are resistant to telling their patients to adopt a whole food plant-based diet. What do you mean by that phrase, meat lovers bias?
There are hundreds of thousands of nutritional science studies published every year, and this just mounds of evidence, more than one person could even read now, on the value of a plant-based diet for disease prevention and reversal. And yet, most medical professionals are not looking at this research. They're not taught it in med school because everybody loves to eat meat, right? They have that, and that's meat lovers bias. That means they don't want to look at research saying that their favorite food, steak, right, and cheeseburgers is unhealthy, right? They just want to enjoy steak and cheeseburgers. So that's unfortunately a huge limiting factor in the quality of care that people are getting from the medical profession. Now, there is a movement of plant-based MDs that's never been bigger. I mean, it's growing and growing, and it's pretty exciting to see that. I imagine some of them will probably be interviewed on the summit. And so things are changing. So that's great. Like the new generation especially is coming up much more health conscious. And a lot of doctors have realized, if I want to understand nutrition and nutritional science, I have to research on my own, because they're not going to teach me this in med school.
As you're talking about how the medical establishment gives short shrift, if any, to the power of nutrition to heal, I'm thinking of the phrase that a doctor who doesn't know about nutrition is like a fireman that doesn't know about water. It's such a powerful healing modality, and yet the average MD in 4 years of medical school gets only a few hours of coursework in nutrition, and most of that isn't very effective in helping them actually use nutrition in their practice.
Unfortunately, there's no money in preventative care. There's no money in telling people to eat healthy. There's no money in encouraging people to exercise. You can make a decent living as a nutritionist or as a doctor who's a lifestyle medicine doctor, but you can't make nearly as much money as you would make being an oncologist or being a heart surgeon or whatever. So, or even being a pharmaceutical drug rep. So therein lies the problem, right? It's a money-based system that is runs like a machine, and it just grinds up patients and doctors alike.
When you refer to it as a money-based system and point out that big pharma and really the entire medical industrial complex tend to look for cancer treatments only in directions that are profitable, I'm thinking about that understanding this bias in Western medicine that you're pointing out is important, because it can be a source of empowerment for people by helping them to break up the neural patterning that's in all of our heads that have programmed us to automatically defer to doctors and to assume that they have the whole truth and that they would not prescribe any treatment that wasn't in our best interests. But I awoke myself to the reality in cancer treatment a few years ago when I saw a study. The McGill Cancer Center conducted the study, scientists there, and they surveyed 118 oncologists who specialized in the treatment of lung cancer. And these cancer specialists were asked, what they would do themselves if they developed the disease. Stunningly, 3/4 said they would not participate in any of the current chemotherapy trials. And the reasons they gave were the ineffectiveness of chemotherapy and its unacceptable degree of toxicity. And people who analyzed the data further found that the more familiar the physicians were with particular forms of chemotherapy, the less willing they would be to undergo them themselves, even while they're prescribing and providing chemo for cancer patients. And you're making the point again and again, and I think it's a really valid one and a crucial one, that we do have a lot of power in our own hands and in our own hearts, and that by eating healthfully, we definitely increase our odds, probably more than we realize, to heal from diseases that may have even been caused in part by the diets we've been eating. And yes, they've been contributed to by environmental exposures, by perhaps radioactivity, by chemical pollutants, but our ability to detoxify those exposures depends on a healthy diet. So let's talk a little bit about what the healthiest diet is for people who are either wanting to prevent cancer or wanting to reverse it.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a plant-based diet, without a doubt, rich in fruits and vegetables. The most potent anti-cancer vegetables are in the cruciferous family, and that's broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Okay, so the cruciferous family these are amazing vegetables with lots of anti-cancer compounds, including sulforaphane and another one called indole 3-carbinol. And then also the allium family, which is garlic, onions, and leeks, are super, super anti-cancer vegetables. And one of the main anti-cancer compounds that they all share is called allium. And so it also is no surprise to you and your listeners that those two vegetable groups are the least consumed vegetables in the United States. We eat the least amount of garlic, onions, leeks, and cruciferous vegetables. And we eat, really lots of like potatoes, which aren't bad in and of themselves, but, they're not especially high in anti-cancer compounds.
Half of the vegetable consumption in the country today is French fries.
Yeah, there you go. Fried potatoes. And you're not even getting the skin, which is where most of the antioxidants are in a potato. So that's when I was in my hardcore healing phase of my life. I was eating giant salads twice a day. I mean, tons of cruciferous vegetables, not just a big bowl of lettuce and like ranch dressing and bacon bits, right? I was eating a big bowl of broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, onions, mushrooms, peppers, just this rainbow, right? It's like the Skittles commercial, taste the rainbow, except it was a rainbow of vegetables. And I had this just sort of funny idea, that I wanted to overdose on nutrition, and I thought to myself, well, if I'm not going to do chemo, I am going to overdose on nutrition and put so much good stuff in my body that it has an abundance, right? An abundance of raw materials and fuel to repair, regenerate, and detoxify. And I just did it over and over and over. I also was juicing throughout the day, drinking tons of carrot and beet juice and celery juice, all this good stuff. And it was fun. It was a healing adventure for me. Well, I didn't regret it. I loved it. I felt great, and experienced just remarkable energy and mental clarity. And I had been congested for years, and like all this kind of mucus just dried up when I stopped eating junk food and animal food. It was just amazing. So for someone that is interested in prevention, the diet doesn't have to be that strict. I mean, I was all raw, just eating raw fruits and vegetables for 90 days. And then I dialed it down to about 80% raw for several years. But in terms of prevention, and you've written about this in your book, Healthy at 100, we know that the healthiest populations around the world, they're eating about 95% of their calories from plant food and very little animal food, And so if I'm having a conversation with someone about prevention, and they're just like, they're reasonably healthy, but they want to stay healthy, then I just tell them, look, you got to cut way back on animal food, way back. Like, look at the healthy cultures around the world. They're only eating animal protein a few times a week to a few times a month. Where in America, we're eating animal protein like 3 times a day. I mean, it's really crazy how much animal protein we're eating. It would be almost impossible to eat that much animal food if it wasn't for factory farming. If we were still an agrarian society and still raising our own chickens, cows, goats, right? You're not going to kill a chicken every night for dinner. You're going to run out of chickens, right? You can't kill a cow because you're in the mood for a steak, right? And that same mentality still exists today in rural parts of the world, right? In rural Africa and parts of the world where cancer rates are much lower, right? They're not killing and eating animals every day because animals are scarce. And animal food is a luxury item that's reserved for special occasions.
When you were talking about the healthiest people in the world and eating very little animal products and eating really whole foods, plant-based diets, they also don't eat the ultra-processed foods that now account for 62% of the calories in the American diet. And you mentioned rural Africa a moment ago, and that brought to my mind the famous surgeon Dennis Burkitt, who made substantial contributions to medical science. And the first was his tremendous contribution to our ability to recognize and to treat a particular type of cancer that afflicts children and that actually now bears his name. His second major contribution to medical science, and this is what I want to ask you about now, came forth when he compared the pattern of diseases and diets in rural Africa with those in the West. Chris, what is the significance of Dennis Burkitt's discoveries in terms of cancer and our diets today?
I love Dennis Burkitt. People that are really deep in the nutritional science community definitely know who he is, but he's not a household name for sure. But he's just an amazing man. He was a surgeon in Africa, a medical missionary, basically, from the UK, and he was in Africa for 20 years, and he observed pretty quickly within just the first few years of traveling around to all of these small hospitals all across Africa that they didn't have heart disease, they didn't have cancer, they didn't have Crohn's disease, colitis, hemorrhoids, like all of these Western diseases. What we call the term Western diseases refers to not just nations in the Western Hemisphere. It refers to like Western civilization, industrialized nations. But he said all these Western diseases are virtually absent in rural Africa. And he surveyed hospitals all across rural Africa, and it was the same answer. No cases of heart disease, very little cases of cancer, especially Western cancers like breast cancer, colon cancer. Why is the rate of cancer so low? Well, back in Burkitt's era, the rural Africans were growing a lot of their own food, right? They were eating a little animal protein here and there, but it was mostly plant food that they grew, right? Lots of starches, lots of tubers and beets and collards and all kinds of stuff. But in a follow-up study that's really pretty fascinating to me, they found that the rates of cancer were still just as low, but their diet was much less healthy. And so now a lot of the rural Africans and poor Africans are basically subsisting on grits. That's almost all they're eating is just grits. So they're deficient in fiber, they're deficient in a lot of essential vitamins and minerals, and their diet is considered like suboptimal. And yet they still are not getting any colon cancer. And what they figured out is it's the absence of inflammatory and cancer-promoting foods in their diet, namely animal food. So they're not eating animal food because they don't have access to it. It's too expensive, not available. They're subsisting on a diet that is what we would consider to be unhealthy and deficient in a lot of vital nutrients, just eating corn grits, and yet no colon cancer.
Which is astounding, even for such a suboptimal diet in many respects, but it does seem to protect them from colon cancer. And we know that African Americans who have the same genetics as the rural Africans you're talking about,
Right.
but live in the US and eat the standard American diet, have very high rates of colon cancer. So it's not a genetic factor that's determining this.
It's not genetics. And there's another term that's widely known and accepted in the research community. It's an interchangeable term for Western diseases. They're also known as diseases of affluence, right? So they're diseases of excess, eating too much, right? Too much animal food, too much sugar, too much salt, too much processed food, too much oils. These are the causes of so many of our chronic Western diseases: diabetes, heart disease, cancer.
Well, we eat too much of everything, I think, and particularly junk food and animal products and highly processed foods. And I'm always looking to find the healthiest people in the world and study them and learn from them and maybe even emulate them if I can. And you pointed out the difference in colon cancer in rural Africa compared to people, black or white or whatever color, eating the standard American diet. The rate of breast cancer in American women is 6 times greater than in Asian women. And scientists have naturally wondered what might be responsible. In 2009, researchers found that Chinese women who frequently ate even small amounts of mushrooms and who also drank a cup of green tea several times a week had an astounding 90% reduced risk of developing breast cancer when compared to Chinese women who didn't regularly consume green tea or mushrooms. Now, based on that study and many, many others that correspond to it, I've come to consider mushrooms and green tea to be among our most potent anti-cancer foods, and particularly so for the hormone-dependent cancers like breast and ovarian and uterine cancer in women and prostate cancer in men. Chris, do you see mushrooms and green tea in a similar way to what I've just described, or do you see them differently?
I see them in the exact same way. Yes, they're potent anti-cancer foods for sure. And that study you're talking about is such a cool one because these women that had the reduced risk of breast cancer basically were consuming an average of a half a cup of mushrooms per day and a half a cup of green tea per day. I mean, that's hardly anything. Half a cup? Like, when's the last time you drank a half a cup of tea? Like 1 cup's pretty easy to drink. And a half a cup of mushrooms, I mean, that's just a little serving on your dinner plate, right? Or lunch plate. It's so easy. And yeah, mushrooms are powerful immune boosting food in the body. And green tea has direct anti-cancer effects. It has a compound called EGCG that is a known anti-cancer agent. And so, yeah, I mean, add those foods to your diet if you're not.
I want to ask you one last question about diet in cancer treatment and prevention. And that has to do with organic food. In 2018, a study was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association titled Association of Frequency of Organic Food Consumption with Cancer Risk. And the study found, and I quote, a higher frequency of organic food consumption was associated with a reduced risk of cancer. Promoting organic food consumption in the general population could be a promising preventive strategy against cancer. This in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Chris, how important has it been for you to eat organically grown food when possible on your healing path?
It's a high priority. I was completely 100% organic in 2004 and 5. And, when I was in the most intensive part of my healing journey, and still today, pretty close to 100%, like up in the 90s percentile of organic food. And, there was another study that was published that came out of France that had the same conclusion as this study you mentioned, where they followed 70,000 people, mostly women, for over 5 years. And those who ate the most organic food were 25% less likely to get cancer than those who ate the least amount of organic food. And it gets better though. The women, people, we'll just say the people in the study, who ate the most organic food had 76% fewer lymphomas 86% fewer non-Hodgkin's lymphomas, and 34% less breast cancer. And so what does that tell you? Whoa, like 76 to 86% less lymphoma because pesticides are causing lymphoma and some breast cancers. So that's why eating organic is so important, is because when you choose organic food, you're not eating pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Some of those are known cancer causers, including glyphosate and Roundup, malathion and diazinon, which are other pesticides that people don't talk about, but they're also classified as probable human carcinogens. And it's known that farmers have higher rates of lymphoma for that very reason. So yeah, man, I mean, the thing about organic is this: eating organic lowers your risk of lymphomas and breast cancer. Okay, so we've got several studies that are validating that. So that's reason number one, that you should try to eat as much organic as possible. But also, I understand there's people listening that may not have access to organic food. It isn't as widespread as it should be, even though there's more available today than there was to me 15 years ago when I was trying to find it. So if you're one of those people, or if you're in a situation where you're like, well, I can't find it, or it's not available, or I can't afford it, and you're having challenges, don't let that stop you from eating fruits and vegetables. You're still getting powerful health promoting anti-cancer nutrition from eating fruits and vegetables. And so, best case is all organic. Second best case is just eating lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yes, it is. And, Chris, I want to talk with you about one final topic, and that's forgiveness. You and I have talked about forgiveness before, and I have always been moved and inspired by how this is really an important part of your work. And frankly, it distinguishes you from all others in the online healing community that I'm aware of, because you understand forgiveness in a very, very deep way. Can you tell us why forgiveness has become such a huge part of your healing path and a huge part of your message and your mission?
I love to talk about forgiveness, and you're right, it's a huge part of my message. What we know now is that when you are under stress, when you entertain stressful thoughts and emotions, which include worry, fear, anxiety, bitterness, anger, right? Resentment, unforgiveness, right? Bitterness and resentment, that's unforgiveness towards others. It raises your stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And those stress hormones, if they stay elevated in your body day after day, week after week, year after year, your body is in a state of chronic inflammation and chronic immunosuppression. So stress, bitterness, resentment, all negative thoughts and emotions create an environment where cancer can thrive in your body, because it promotes inflammation and suppresses your immune system. So when I connected those dots, I was like, oh man, like, wow, okay, all right, I need to take this more seriously, because it's not just about the food, right? Food's a factor. Exercise is a factor, like not smoking and drinking and, engaging in physical abuse, abusing yourself is a factor. But this is like abusing yourself mentally and emotionally and even spiritually when you hold on to bitterness and you don't forgive. So I made a decision. I was just like, okay, I want to get well. I don't want anything to get in my way. I don't want there to be any, I don't want to leave any stone unturned. So I'm just going to forgive every person who has ever hurt me. Like I need to clear this stuff out. And I mean, it sounds dumb, but I had a great childhood. My parents stayed together. Like I was never abused. Like I didn't have any real reason to be angry and bitter and cynical and judgmental and negative, but I was. Growing up, I just let myself become more and more insecure. And as a coping mechanism for insecurity, I became, like overly ambitious and trying to prove myself to the world and critical and judgmental, and it's just holding on to a lot of resentments and bitterness. And so it took some time for me to really admit who I was to myself. You know what I mean? And once I did, I was like, man, I'm kind of a mess. Like I'm kind of an emotional mess, and I've got to fix this. And so the key to fixing it was forgive. And so I decided to forgive everyone who'd ever hurt me, and just one by one. And I love to explain how to do it because it's so easy. We all have people in our life who've hurt us, and we will all have people hurt us in the future, right? Because humans are imperfect, and we're just, insensitive, or we're just mean, or just awful, or whatever, right? We've all been hurt. And so one by one, I just, close your eyes and you just remember the people that hurt you. You have to go in and dig up those memory banks. Like you've got a file folder in your brain that's, got all the people who've hurt you in it. And it's a file that you never open, right? Because who wants to think about that stuff? But if you go in there and you one by one, go back through your memory, through your childhood, and chronologically, just one by one, let's pull that file out, think about that person, what they did, like just get back in the moment, right? With that hurt, and then make a decision to forgive them. And so I just say, God, you know what they did, you know how I feel about it, and I'm still unhappy. It still hurts, but I'm choosing to forgive them. I'm letting it go, and I'm just going to give it to you. They're all yours.
When you were describing the physiological side of forgiveness, and then when we're holding on to bitterness and resentment, we actually are under constant stress, and our stress hormones are elevated.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the saying that not forgiving is like eating rat poison and expecting the rat to die. I mean, we're really doing damage to ourselves.
Yeah.
But Chris, you talked about having a relatively favorable childhood. Some of us had very, very difficult ones. And I would imagine that you've seen in your work the consequences of refusing to forgive, as well as the gifts that come from doing so.
Yeah.
How do you advise someone who is clearly in pain from holding on to old hurts and resentments and is having a hard time letting go? How do you advise them to move toward forgiveness?
The thing about forgiveness is you have to do it. Unforgiveness and bitterness only hurts you, right? Like you said with the rat poison, holding on to it only hurts you, doesn't hurt the other person. And so if you want to heal, if you want joy and you want freedom, right, from that pain, the solution, the answer to healing that pain is forgiveness. Forgiveness heals your heart. Like an amazing thing happens when you pray the way I pray and you say, God, they're all yours, right? I'm letting it go. I forgive them. I'm not going to carry this anymore. You can deal with them. It's like you're dropping that weight off your, literally, it's like you're carrying a backpack full of bricks and you just step out of the backpack and it just, right? Just thud to the ground and you just walk away from it. And the great thing about this exercise, about forgiveness, is it's not a feeling. So it's okay if you don't want to. Like it's just a choice that you make. Man, I cannot stress how transformative it is for your mental, emotional, and spiritual life to decide to forgive people and let them go. And the other part of it too is, listen, this is a decision for life. If you eat a healthy diet, so full circle, right? If you eat a healthy diet, if you eat a plant-based diet for a day, is it going to be helpful? No, not really. What about a week? And then you go back to the old junk food diet. Nope, not much benefit. A healthy diet only works if you stick with it, and it perpetuates your health. And forgiveness only works if you stick with it, right? You make the decision and you hold to your decision. So when those feelings try to creep in, you say, no, I forgive them. I forgave them. It gets done. I'm not going to entertain the pain, the hurt, the bitterness. That's not who I am anymore. And that's part of the process. And what you'll find is that over time, God heals your heart. It's just what happens. And then you see them in a different light. And the most powerful thing you can do in this exercise is you forgive people one by one. And by the way, it's got to be by name. You can't just do a blanket like, I forgive everybody. Okay, I'm done. Like, that doesn't work. But the most powerful thing you can do is not only choose to forgive, but then ask God to bless the people who've hurt you. Just bless them. I forgive them, bless them, and I'm going to move on with my life. And by the way, you don't have to go see them. You don't have to go talk to them. You don't have to have interaction with these people that have hurt you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to tell them you forgave them. This is just you, right? It's just you and only you that you're dealing with. So, man, I love to forgive. I've gotten really good at it. People attack me all the time online and stuff. And so I'm just very quick to forgive. And that's one thing I've learned how to do, and is just be quick, right? Because the longer you hold on to bitterness, the more toxic it becomes, the more poisonous and toxic it is to your mental, emotional, and spiritual life. It just really poisons you from the inside out, and it gives you a sick heart. So like I said a minute ago, like, unforgiveness produces a sick heart, and forgiveness heals your heart.
Well, I really appreciate what you're saying. And when you mention asking God to bless the people who've hurt you, I think that's really potent. I think that's really powerful.
Man, it is.
And healing for everybody, all concerned. And there's so much I appreciate about you and your work, Chris. You're an example and an inspiration to millions. And you uplift all of us who have the privilege of knowing you and hearing your wisdom. You remind us all of something Hippocrates said, which is that the natural healing force within each of us, is the greatest force in getting well. On behalf of Ocean and myself, Chris, and everyone involved in the food revolution, I thank you for your courage, for your deep caring and your deep commitment, and of course, for being with us today.
You guys are the best.
No, thank you, Chris. Thank you for being all that you are and doing what you're doing and sharing it with the world. I'm proud of you, and I'm humbled by you both.
Thank you, man. That just means so much. I look up to you, respect you so much, John. And yeah, man, it's cool. I'm blessed. What can I say? Just thankful to be alive. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for you and Ocean and other dear friends and family, and just got to remind myself those things, that life's good.
We've been talking here with Chris Wark, author of Chris Beat Cancer, a comprehensive plan for healing naturally. Chris, when we think about cancer, most people feel a lot of fear, but you bring so much kindness, clarity, wisdom, love, and steadiness, and you're helping hundreds of thousands of people to navigate challenging waters with love, with wisdom, with clarity. And we want to thank you so much for your courage, for sharing your story so open-heartedly, for your wisdom, and for your partnership in the food revolution. Thank you so much to Chris Wark and to my dad and colleague John Robbins for that exquisite, profound, beautiful conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what others are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcast page, and make sure to refresh those comments so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. You will see a button there that can help you do that. Our next presentation will be an interview with renowned best-selling author and medical medium Anthony William. It will start at the top of the hour in about 7 minutes. Kay Blackburn said, "Thank you so much for hosting this summit. I have an incurable aggressive cancer. I've gone through all that conventional treatment has to offer me, and I still have active disease. But over the last 18 months, I changed my diet and lifestyle and kept it stable. I can definitely live this way with cancer, and I am thriving. More people need to know what they can do to heal themselves." Well, Kay, thank you for sharing this with us, and our love and our prayers are with you every single step of the journey. And I am so heartened that you have had these 18 months, and I pray that they continue and that you continue to thrive long time to come. We heard from Gina Mann, who said, I've lost my sister this week to cancer. She suffered for 5 years. 6 months after she was diagnosed, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and I was diagnosed a few months later with breast cancer. This super shocked me into reading all kinds of books and listening to many anti-cancer summits. I appreciate this and what it can offer to many of us to stay ahead of being affected and infected by a contaminated world. God bless you all. Gina, our love and prayers are with you and your sister and your mom. What an extraordinary convergence all at once. And blessings to your sister in her journey and to your whole family in letting her go. And blessings to you in your healing journey. We are with you every step of the way, and you are in the right place. Tracy Osborne said, I heard the Robbins family takes Complement. Is there a recommendation for a UK supplement that can be recommended? Well, Tracy, let me tell you a bit about Complement. My family takes it daily, and it was created by some friends of ours, and it's basically designed to look at when you eat a whole foods, plant-powered diet that's really excellent, and you get great nutrition from your food, there are still a few nutrients that can be a little tricky. Vitamin B12, which traditionally might have come from dirt, but we don't eat much dirt in the modern world. Vitamin D3, which comes from the sun, but we don't get enough of it in the sunlight, most of us in the modern world. Omega-3 fatty acids, which are great for brain health, and which your body can, you can make the long-chain omega-3s, EPA and DHA, from the short-chain ALA. And there's an abundance of the short-chain ALA to be found in flax seeds and chia seeds. And there's also some in hemp seeds and some other plant-sourced foods. But you won't find the EPA or DHA in those. You'll only find it in algae or fish. And if you do not choose to eat wild fish or high omega-3 fish in your diet, then that's a particular reason you may want to consider supplementing with an algae-sourced version of DHA and EPA to make sure you're getting enough of those in case your body isn't converting adequately. So all that to say, Complement combines all three of these, plus zinc and vitamin K2 in one supplement. And you can get it actually anywhere in the world. They've come out with a version now that they can ship all over the planet. So if you go to foodrevolution.org/complement, you can find out more and get it yourself. Again, that's foodrevolution.org/complement, because it's complementary. It's meant to go along with a healthy diet, not to replace poor eating habits. Pam Connor said, is it too late for me? I'm 68 and retired. Well, Pam, recently our kitchen was a mess. I'd been working a lot. I hadn't done the dishes all day, and I could have said, the kitchen's already a mess, so what's the point of cleaning it? I don't have time to clean it. Everything's just so messy, so what's the point? And if I'd done that, we all know what would have happened, and we probably can imagine how my wife would have felt the next morning. But the truth is, you can never go back. You only have a choice about what you do now and about what you do in the future. And the fact is, the more clogged your arteries might be, the more damaged you might be by any unhealthy choices you may have made in the past, the more you've got to gain by moving in a positive direction. So kitchens don't clean themselves. Our bodies do a pretty good job cleaning themselves, but they do need some help, and healthy food is incredibly helpful. Barbara Brose said, what a wonderful conversation. I have a question about green tea, and it's about the caffeine. When I drink green tea or eat chocolate, the caffeine makes me feel like I'm on cocaine. Is there some reason for this? Should I keep taking it? Thanks for your love and support. Warm regards, Barbara. She also said, I really appreciate your ocean, and your story has touched my heart. Sending you blessings of gratitude. Thank you, Barbara. So caffeine is one of those substances that different people respond to in different ways. Some of us can drink coffee before bed and sleep like a baby. Other people have a glass of green tea, a cup of green tea in the morning, and we're up all night. The reality is we're very different in the way we metabolize it and respond to it. And this is one of those places where you've got to listen to your body. Again, just because a lot of studies say it's good for a lot of people doesn't mean it's good for you. You might try the decaffeinated versions of green tea or black tea. If you're going to do coffee, the Swiss water process is the least toxifying way to decaffeinate it. So, but again, listen to your body and see what works for you. Kella de Haberman said, I am floored. My health is poor, and I am tired of eating food that makes me sick. I live in constant pain, arthritis, low thyroid, constant phlegm in my throat, and stomach issues. Thank you for this conference. I'm going to start making changes right away, and I'm staying up until 2 a.m. to make notes. Well, Kella, thank you for sharing. We are glad you are here, and we want to support you in putting what you're learning into action, and also so that you don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. taking notes. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You will own the MP3s and the transcripts of the entire summit for life. You'll have all the bonuses from our speakers. Many of them could be extraordinarily supportive to you in applying all that you're learning. And you'll also have the action checklists and action steps, so you can see some of the top highlights from each presentation that you can integrate easily, deliciously, and supportively in your journey. Congratulations. We will be in touch. Now, coming up next, starting in a minute, we're going to have an interview with Anthony William. Since his early childhood, Anthony describes having the ability to converse with what he calls a high-level spirit, who gives him access to unique health and medical insights. A lot of doctors come to him with their difficult cases and report remarkable results. A friend of mine had a reading with Anthony a couple years ago. She'd been battling a serious health problem for many years. She'd hired all the best doctors she could find, and they were flummoxed. But in one reading, Anthony was able to diagnose the problem and tell her exactly how to solve it. She implemented his suggestions, and they worked. So whether you believe in psychic phenomena or not, and whatever you think of it, I think you're going to find it very interesting to hear what Anthony William has to say about celery juice and about superfoods. So now it's time for the next segment of our broadcast with Anthony William. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Anthony William. In this summit, the majority of our speakers are medical doctors and researchers. We put a lot of stock in the findings from health studies undertaken with rigorous methodology and published in the most credible and prestigious peer-reviewed medical journals. At the same time, we recognize that not everything meaningful and important can be measured and analyzed. Sometimes dreams and intuition bring us wisdom that can even galvanize new fields of scientific research. So it's with great respect for science and the scientific method that we are today entering into an interview that lies more in the realm of wonder and imagination, intuition and inspiration. Anthony William is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of many wildly popular books, including Medical Medium, Life-Changing Foods, Thyroid Healing, Liver Rescue, and his new book, being released in mid-May, Medical Medium Celery Juice. Anthony was born with the unique ability to converse with what he calls a high-level spirit, who provides him with extraordinarily accurate health information that often seems to be far ahead of its time. At age 4, Anthony shocked his family by announcing that his symptom-free grandmother had lung cancer. Medical testing soon confirmed that he was right. Ever since then, Anthony has been using his gift to help thousands of people recover their health, including movie stars, rock stars, billionaires, professional athletes, best-selling authors, and everyday folks. Anthony has also become an invaluable resource to doctors who need help solving their most difficult cases. Some might question the legitimacy or accuracy of what is sometimes referred to as psychic powers. But whether you believe in them or not, a lot of our participants will no doubt be curious what insights and wisdom Anthony can share with the rest of us. What does he know or see in regards to food and health? And what might we be able to learn from it? So now, Anthony, my dad and I are so excited to have this time with you. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it to my dad and colleague, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean, and thank you, Anthony, for being with us once again.
Amazing. So glad to be here. It's an honor.
Well, we're privileged to have you. And last year, your talk was one of our most popular ones. And I'm still hearing from people who are drinking celery juice and eating wild blueberries because of having heard you.
Well, that's amazing. Celery juice has taken the world by storm. And probably one of the reasons is because, of your summit. This is an incredible summit. And it's just so great to be here.
Well, we do reach a lot of people, and you have a history with celery juice. I mean, you are somewhat responsible for the remarkable amount of celery juice that's being drunk in our culture today. And you mentioned to me that story began in your childhood. Can you tell us about that?
It did. It's an amazing story. In 1975 was the first time I came up with celery juice, and of course, if anybody who knows about me or how it works with me, I get my information from beyond. And what happened was the information came through is you needed to juice celery to get this family member better who had a back injury that wasn't recovering. And the voice I heard said, celery juice is the answer for this issue that's going on, for this ailment. So we stuck celery, and my family stuck celery in a blender, one of those beat up old blenders that you probably make, whatever out of them back in that day in the 70s. And we strained it in a cheesecloth and squeezed out the juice. And this was a skeptic, this family member, a very much a skeptic, which, was not drinking this thinking that it was going to help on any level. In fact, quite the contrary. And the opposite, if anything, thinking it was going to hurt them. And they consumed the celery juice. The person did that in my family. And lo and behold, the back started responding within hours. And the next day, 50% better. Juice celery again. The next day, better and better. It wasn't more than just maybe 5 or 6 days, and the recovery happened. So that was the first time I recommended it from Spirit. So it's information that was, gifted to the world, basically, is how I see it. And I'm just the delivery guy. I'm the delivery guy where I'm delivering that, information, but yet this was a gift for so many because now millions of people are healing. I remember at age 14 being a stock boy in a grocery store, and my boss said, "What can you do to help the people that you're taking around the store, talking about their ailments and their conditions and what they need and what's happening?" Because I was using my gift at age 14. I built my first clientele at that age, and I said I need a juicer. And my boss got a juicer. So we set it up in the back room, and I would come out with fresh celery juice at age 14 to all the different people that were having ailments and problems. So it's been in all the protocols that Medical Medium has that are in the books and everything. I've been using this as one of the main staple protocols. People have responded and healed and really pushed through when nothing would move the needle. People that have already done the cleanest diets, people that have already gone as far as they could with all the different nutritional things and the supplements and the herbs and vitamins, and they've gone really far, but they couldn't get past that barrier, that breaking point, of making sure, hey, you're getting to the other side. And it was the celery juice. So I put it in the books. Now there's millions drinking it. And the reason why it's working is because people not only have toxins inside of them, but they have pathogens inside of them. And this is one of the most powerful ways to lower pathogen loads, to drop down viruses like the Epstein-Barr, drop down bacteria like Streptococcus, to bringing down these bacteria, these virus loads that are in people and killing off the bad bugs. And that's what I was told by Spirit. That's what I call the voice of Spirit. Told since I was a child that this kills off bad bugs that create inflammation, that feed off of bad foods that actually feed the bugs and creates inflammation.
Well, Anthony, some people think of celery as mostly water and really not much else. The truth is that celery has been known for its health-giving properties and been used as a medicine since at least the 9th century. And there have been recent studies performed in China that found that eating just 2 medium-sized stalks of celery 2 or 3 times a week, just that much even, can reduce the risk of lung cancer by a remarkable 60%. And other studies have found that celery is potentially effective at killing ovarian, pancreatic, prostate, breast, and liver cancer cells. So, Anthony, in your most recent book, Liver Rescue, you include celery juice in your liver rescue protocols. How much celery juice do you recommend?
It's 16 ounces of straight celery juice on an empty stomach that makes it happen. That's what moves the needle. And the reason why it's so important that I say this is because it's an herb. This is an herbal extraction. You have to keep out the pulp. You have to keep out the fiber. Now, I know there's so many people advocating for keeping the fiber in. I understand that with different vegetable blends and everything else, and keeping the fiber in, how important it is. But this is a medicine. You don't keep the tea bags in and then eat the tea bags after you've extracted the tea. You don't have a cup of tea and then you just take the tea bag, you open it up and you start gobbling down the old tea. This is an herbal medicine now, and that's why it's working. And one of the things that celery juice does, it cleans up the liver and everything, and that's what's great about the celery.
Well, it is. And I do want to talk about your most recent book, Liver Rescue. It is a huge bestseller. You're becoming very influential in the culture. Celery juice is becoming a trend, but as you say, not one prompted by commercial forces. Nobody really is getting rich off some people making celery juice in their homes and drinking it. But you call the liver our miracle peacekeeper, and you refer to it as an unsung and often ignored hero. Now, we can't feel our livers the way we can feel our hearts beating, for example, or our lungs breathing. But you say the liver is our best friend, and maybe the best friend we've ever had. So what I want to ask you, Anthony, is why did you write a book about the human liver? And do you think our livers are in more trouble today than we might realize?
All illness starts in the liver first. High blood pressure, that's from a liver getting stagnant and sluggish. That's what that is. And even fatty on top of it, because you don't have to get a diagnosis of a fatty liver to have a fatty liver. In fact, you can get a fatty liver long before that. Heart disease starts with the liver first. Diabetes starts with the liver first. The liver's responsible for so much more than anyone ever even believed or knew about. And including SIBO, including the overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestinal tract, the liver, because that's where bacteria thrives and camps out. The liver's the filter for pathogens, bacteria, viruses, HHV6, shingles viruses, all the varieties of EBV, simplexes, everything. They sit inside a megalovirus. They sit inside the liver, and everything just prospers in there because the liver's your filter. It collects everything, all the bugs, and it collects all the junk. It collects the colognes and the air fresheners and the household cleaners and the detergents and the fabric softeners and the chemicals at the gas station when you're pumping gas into your car and breathing in fumes. And I'm not trying to put anybody in fear. It's just that we have to take care of the liver because it's been the unsung hero. It's actually our hero taking on all this junk 24/7. And we don't live a clean enough lifestyle to give it a break. And we don't give it a break and give it that breather. Our liver is literally crying for help on a daily basis when we get heart palpitations, when we get hot flashes, when we get all these things, both women, men. This is the liver. It's all about the liver being sick, and including eczema psoriasis. That's a liver condition because eczema psoriasis is an overburdened liver filled with copper and viruses. The viruses feed off of copper, release a dermatoxin. The dermatoxin floats to the surface of the skin, causing eczema and psoriasis. That's advanced information science and research will not know about for years to come. And I put that in Liver Rescue. It's why people are healing too. They're healing their eczema psoriasis using the celery juice, the heavy metal detox smoothie from Medical Medium, all of it. And that's not something, the heavy metal detox smoothie is not something I'm selling. I don't sell anything. That heavy metal detox smoothie is a recipe. It's a recipe to get the metals out of your liver so you can get rid of your eczema psoriasis, so you can get rid of the lichen sclerosus, you can get rid of the vitiligo. Vitiligo is aluminum inside the liver. That's aluminum being fed to a virus inside the liver, a dermatoxin being released that kills the melanin, the pigment in the skin, causing vitiligo. We walk around with sick livers. Every one of us has a liver issue to some degree.
Well, I'm hearing you say that a great many symptoms and conditions and diseases are rooted in the liver. And it's not just about liver cancer or cirrhosis or hepatitis, which we know are liver conditions. You write that a healthy liver is the ultimate de-stressor, the ultimate anti-aging ally, the ultimate safeguard against a threatening world. And that it's the key, really, to mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. Can you elaborate on that, Anthony?
Absolutely. When our livers get toxic, we do too. There's a reason for that. We don't sleep as good. That's just one all on its own. Even if we think we're sleeping pretty good, we can be having a night that's not as good or a deeper sleep. And so, because our livers can get restless at night when they're toxic, they can spasm in the middle of the night. They can bring on a restless leg syndrome. They can bring on bad dreams. So the liver is responsible emotionally. For instance, when it's stagnant and it's sluggish and it's not working properly. And basically what happens in pressure builds up inside of our liver. Our liver, there's stress pressure that can get built up inside the liver because it's filling up. So imagine a fish tank. Imagine the fish filter getting so dirty and so clogged up, that fish filter that's bubbling inside the tank to the point where the bubbles barely come out of it. That's what happens.
Anthony, many of your ideas are outside the framework of modern scientific research. And I'm sure that you must be challenged and doubted by people because of that. How do you respond to those who say that you don't have scientific background or credentials? So why should we take what you say seriously?
Someone said to me, they said, "Oh, so you know more than science and research and you don't even have a degree. You're not a doctor or anything." And then I say, I didn't know science and research fixed everybody. I didn't know there's no one sick anymore. I didn't know that the hundreds of millions of people that have symptoms and conditions, which is the new normal right now. I was just talking to a doctor the other day, and he was telling me this. He was saying, you know what's funny? He said 1985, everybody just had arthritis and aches and pains, and they were 70 years old. It's pretty much so. And the majority of it. Now we have 20-year-olds filling our offices. It's unlike anything we've ever seen in history. In my 30 years practice, he said. And I said, well, in my 30 years of doing this too and helping out people every day and seeing thousands of people, I've saw close to 200,000 people over the last 35 years before I wrote the books. And I saw the same thing he saw. The chronically ill are swept under the carpet every day right now, still hidden. And when they speak out on social media, like on Instagram, and they say celery juice has literally moved the needle for me and changed my life, and they tell their story, they're slammed. They're told it can't be possible because there's no studies and peer-reviewed studies on celery juice. And so what I said to this person was, okay, well, so I didn't know science research fixed everybody. I didn't know they had all the answers. Oh my God. And all the people with every single symptom that they have. I didn't know all the sick people were gone. And it was all healthy people on the planet.
Well, we certainly are seeing more and more sick people and more overweight people and more people getting chronic and debilitating diseases at younger and younger ages. And you trace a great deal of this to the damage that our modern diet and our modern way of life is doing to our livers. And I find myself wondering as I listen to you, Anthony, what happens when somebody gets a liver transplant? Do they experience personality changes?
When someone gets a liver transplant, they all of a sudden act differently. They act differently. They have different likes, different interests, different tastes. They have a different palate. They have a different appetite. They have even characteristics that are different that they never had in their life with their new liver inside of them. Our liver speaks to us. It does talk to us. It is emotionally connected to us. We can get angrier when our liver is unhappy and congested and stagnant and sluggish and fatty. And we can feel that, and it can hit us emotionally. Peace inside of our liver will give us more peace than anyone ever knew or knows. And if everyone had a healthier liver on this planet, you'd be surprised to the degree of what could change on this planet to the level of peace that we can actually see.
Well, everybody's liver isn't healthy now. And we are seeing, as you mentioned, a lot of chronic illness that didn't used to be there. And we're seeing it in younger and younger people. We're seeing obesity rates just through the roof. There's a type of diabetes that used to be called adult onset because it was never seen in young people, but it's now called type 2 diabetes because we're seeing it in young people more and more. So we're seeing all this chronic illness, and I sometimes think that people don't get enough credit for taking care of their health. I mean, we're taught to put other things ahead of our own well-being. And when we take steps to heal ourselves and to create healthy lifestyles, we can feel out of step with society. We can feel almost guilty about it, like it's not real work, like it's self-indulgent.
There's a reason for that. We're taught to destroy our livers in school. We go to universities and we're under extreme deadlines. We're under complete total stress and pressure. I mean, the kids in the universities now, they're just taking amphetamines just to get by and survive. They're drinking coffee 24/7, starving themselves and eating candy bars. This is all harsh on the liver. And then they're drinking at night because to try to de-stress themselves. That's the new norm for students now. And I'm not saying every student, I'm just saying that's the consensus. I hear that from students all the time. That's how I learned about it. They're not only eating poorly and all of that, but they're drinking because the stress and the pressure. It's not just the partying aspect. And so we're taught in school to not take care of the liver while we're living our life. So it starts early. It starts early in our lives. And then when we get older, who wants to take care of the liver? I mean, we just it's been ingrained in us to actually do the opposite.
Well, in your book, Liver Rescue, you list some foods that you call problematic for the liver. And to no one's surprise, you include recreational alcohol in this list. But I was surprised to see that the first three foods in your problematic foods are eggs, dairy, and cheese. Can you explain?
Absolutely. The reason why eggs are the worst food for the liver is because it's a pathogen feeder. We're eating our eggs. Oh, it's such a perfect food, blah, blah, blah. And we're feeding our bacteria that's in our body. We're feeding viruses that are in our body. See, and this is offensive to a lot of people when I say this stuff, because everything I talk about, yes, it's controversial, but I only care about the chronically ill. I care about the chronically ill and about them getting answers and standing up for them and being a voice for them. Eggs are literally a culprit, whether anybody likes it or not. Dairy products, same thing.
Well, there are people in the food world today telling us to avoid eating fruit because of the natural sugars that fruit contains. In terms of liver health, do you find these warnings against fruit to be helpful or to be misguided?
Well, first of all, it's misguided to actually go against fruit. It's truly misguided for so many reasons. I mean, I can't even say it enough. Antioxidants, the most powerful antioxidants we have in the world to date, come from fruit. So we're just going to age quicker if we keep fruit out of our diet completely. I mean, apples, they're a critical part of life for so many reasons. And so you don't want to avoid the berries, the raspberries, blueberries, apples, the papaya. I've seen papaya save lives over the years when no one could eat anything but papaya to survive. If they were told to avoid fruit, they would have died. I knew somebody that went to 100 doctors, and the only thing who literally recovered this person was bananas, literally bananas. And that recovered them. They would be dead and gone if it wasn't for those bananas. I've seen people get sick because they're so afraid of fruit. They only get sicker and sicker and sicker. It's one of these mistakes, these great mistakes I call fruit fear. It's so important. I can't say enough about the whole fruit thing. It just, oh my God. It's not about having to eat all fruit and only fruit. I've never said that. I've never said be a fruitarian where it's only fruit. You should have at least a little bit and not go fear and panic over a few handfuls of berries every day, over some apples every day, some papaya, a little bit of mango, melon, any kind of fruit. The antioxidants are just one aspect. There's one of so many important pieces.
Well, the argument against fruit says that because fruit is so sweet, it imbalances our blood sugar levels. But I agree with you, Anthony. There was a study just last month published in the medical journal Obesity. That's interesting. The researchers divided the study participants, all of whom had prediabetes, randomly into three groups. And one of the groups ate no fruit, and one of the groups ate a cup of frozen raspberries each day, and the third group ate 2 cups of frozen raspberries each day. And the researchers tracked and they measured insulin resistance. And what they found out was that the intake of raspberries actually improved blood sugar control in these people with prediabetes. And the improvement was major, and it was greatest in those who consumed the 2 cups of raspberries, while those who consumed 1 cup saw major improvement compared to those who didn't eat fruit. And I mention this study because it just came out and it's on my mind, but it's far from alone. There have been many other studies that show that the vast majority of people with diabetes or with prediabetes improve when they eat whole fruit. And I think these studies are validating what you're telling us. And I also think it's important to stress that we're talking about whole fruit here, improving the management and the prevention of diabetes, because it's the whole fruit that has the fiber. Drinking fruit juice wouldn't be as helpful, but eating whole fruits, eating apples and raspberries and blueberries, eating blackberries and bananas and plums and apricots, in most cases, maybe counterintuitively, does help to reverse and to prevent diabetes. And I'll give you another example. Where science is validating what you're saying. And this was published as a remarkable study. It was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2012. If you drink a glass of water with 3 tablespoons of sugar, which is about the amount in a can of soda, what's going to happen? Well, within an hour, you'll have a big spike in your blood sugar levels. And then your body will release a lot of insulin to soak up the excess sugar. And by the second hour, your blood sugar levels will drop even lower than they would be if you were fasting. This is the blood sugar roller coaster that so many people are on today, eating foods with so much added sugar and feeling emotionally unstable. But what happens if you eat a cup of blended berries in addition to drinking the sugar water? The berries, of course, have sugars of their own, so if you eat the berries along with the sugar water, you're actually consuming significantly more sugar than you would if you just drank the sugar water by itself. So you might think that the blood sugar spike would be worse, but actually, no. In fact, the study participants who ate berries along with drinking the cup of sugar water experienced no hypoglycemic dip at all afterwards. The berries, even though they were sweet themselves, actually prevented the blood sugar roller coaster effect. Now, Anthony, I know this has been somewhat of a long-winded statement from me, but I'm making it because the studies in peer-reviewed medical journals consistently show that eating berries can blunt the insulin spike from high glycemic foods like white bread, which validates what you're saying about the fear of fruit being misguided.
Exactly. And here's the deal. Here's the most important piece. You should stay away from table sugar, high fructose corn sugar. You should stay away from the bad sugars. But a lot of the communities in the health movement that are against fruit, I'm not blaming them for that, for having that misinformation, but I feel sad for them and the people who are coming to them for help. I truly do.
Well, I want to ask you about another controversy in the food world. Ketogenic diets are very popular these days, and there are many varieties of ketogenic diets, but all of them are high in fats, and all of them are very, very low in carbohydrates, sometimes wanting us to consume only 5% or less of our total caloric intake in the form of carbohydrates. Anthony, in terms of liver health, what's your view of very high-fat, very low-carb diets like the ketogenic diets?
Now, here's how it goes with the liver. The higher fat diet you have, the more you age your liver. Your liver gets destroyed in the end. It ages, and that's what's happening now. Don't get me wrong. When you're on a standard American diet and you're eating just anything you want, fried foods, processed foods, and everything, and you go to a diet of choice that you pick, it could be a keto diet. It's not going to have the processed foods anymore. It's not going to have junk and garbage in there. It's not going to have fried food in there because they're not going to recommend that. And you start getting better. So then you thought you found the fountain of youth. But the bottom line is, what happens is that it's the fats that can still burden the liver and hurt the liver over time. So even if you're improving with a keto diet because you left your standard American diet, Even if you're improving, it doesn't mean your liver still isn't sick or going to get sick later on or become ill later on and the weight comes back on and all these other problems. It happens to everybody because until you address the liver, and one of the ways of addressing it is to lower your fats. That doesn't mean having to be fat free if you don't want to. That's not it at all. It means you shouldn't be 75% fats in your diet. It shouldn't. It's a bad experiment is what it is. The bottom line is you got to pay the Pied Piper in the end. That's the bottom line. Your liver still gets sick. You still age quicker. You still see symptoms coming back. You got to bring those fats down no matter what aisle you're on. Bring in some more apples. That lowers your fat already, your ratio of the day. Bring in your celery juice. Bring in a sweet potato. Bring in different things, lower your fats. Increase more steamed asparagus, more steamed Brussels sprouts. Bring those in so you don't have to actually rely on more fats to get your calories. Your life will change.
When you mentioned steamed asparagus and steamed Brussels sprouts, I found myself salivating and getting hungry. And there's another popular health trend that I want to ask you about. Many people today are concerned about eating fruits and vegetables that contain lectins. And I want to ask you, is it your view that we should avoid eating foods like tomatoes and beans and other lectin-containing foods? Or is the concern about lectins in foods founded more on ignorance, really, than on anything actually valid?
I hate to drop the bomb in the lectin theory, but I'll just tell you right now that if lectins were the cause of the problem, then I would say, yeah, they're a problem, but they're not the cause of the problems. Tomatoes are an amazing food for people, without a doubt. It shouldn't be stopped because of a lectin theory. It's really important to understand the lectin theory is what it is. It has nothing to do to what's in people's bodies and actually causing them the harm. It just doesn't. There's lectins in every fruit and vegetable there is. So you mean to tell me, should we get rid of every fruit and vegetable because there's a lectin in it? So that's the whole point, is it's just a mass ball of confusion. But that's what planet Earth is like right now. And that's why people walk around still sick today.
Well, we are trying to bring some clarity in the midst of the confusion. And what I want to ask you, Anthony, is what are some of the best foods then to eat to support liver health, to support our general well-being in every way? What are the foods we should be basing our diets around?
Wild blueberries, frozen wild blueberries in the freezer section. I don't support a particular brand. I like Wyman's. I like all the different brands in there. And it's just wild, frozen, wild blueberries. One of the most powerful things. Pitaya, dragon fruit, the red dragon fruit, it far surpasses beets for actually healing the liver. So I have a liver rescue remedy, like a liver rescue smoothie in Liver Rescue. You know, the book is packed with information on how to bring back your liver so you can reverse so many illnesses. I even have a whole section in Liver Rescue with saying what supplements, if you're into supplements, which supplements do help the liver with different conditions. And I even have what foods help. And the bottom line is pitaya is one of the next foods that you're going to see explode because it's helping livers heal. The new way is going to be pitaya because it's so much more powerful for healing the liver. And you know what? Down the road, they're going to talk about pitaya being one of these miracle foods for the liver.
You mentioned pitaya, also called dragon fruit. Some of our listeners might not be familiar with it, so I want to say that it can be found in smoothie packs in the frozen food aisles of many food stores. It can be found in powdered form, and it's usually known as dragon fruit. It has a mild watermelon-like flavor, and you have it in a lot of your liver rescue protocols. Why is that?
Well, because, you know, it brings back the liver, so it's important. You can go to the freezer section. You can just buy frozen pitaya, the red frozen pitaya, and put in your smoothies and your salads. You can just do things like that without a doubt. You bring in some pitaya, which is a fruit. And yeah, one of the most powerful ways to bring our liver back. Wild blueberries, that's another way too. But once you bring in a couple of these things, you're moving mountains. And the reason why there's so many recipes in the book with pitaya is because it's that much powerful. You got your pitaya, you're restoring your liver. Pitaya brings back liver cells, it helps them not only restore, but it stops them from dying. It helps, it helps the death of the cell that happens inside our bodies from toxins. And pitaya stops that. The wild blueberries, incredible too, for the liver and for the brain. Your celery juice, boom, same thing. When it's you bring in these three things, these three powerhouses or three or four powerhouses, and now your diet's really going to the next level. And so, yeah, it's the pitaya is that important. Plays such a role. And I know I sound so passionate, a little extra too passionate tonight, and probably even slightly sarcastic tonight. But I'm very excited about the fact that people are healing with these things, and I want the world to know you have an opportunity there too. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than being in the depths of darkness with no answers, with your symptoms, and if you have answers but you're still suffering and struggling, and you don't have a direction, and if your direction's not working or it is, you don't even know, and people suffer and they struggle, and it kills me and pains me. I've been watching it for decades. And so I may come across where, hey, look, this is what you need to do, the wild blueberries, and this is what you need to do is the celery juice. I just don't want you to suffer when you actually have opportunities. They are there. I've seen people go through so much, and I'm just so sorry for all that people go through.
Well, we all are, and we won't want to help. The government recommends 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Most people don't even come close to that. We have data saying that actually 10 servings a day is much more optimal than 5. What are the vegetables? If you were going to make a list of vegetables that you would like to see people eating more of, what would that list include?
Broccoli is incredible for people. Don't be afraid. A cruciferous family, that set of vegetables, whatever you do, if you think it's going to hurt your thyroid, you're just mistaken by misinformation. It would take barrels and barrels and barrels for that goitrogenic compound to affect you of broccoli, barrels of it. You couldn't even consume enough of it to cause a problem. Plus, there's anti-goitrogenic properties in broccoli and the whole thing with the sulfur-rich vegetables. There's anti-goitrogen properties. So cruciferous is a great one. Brussels sprouts, it's an amazing one for the liver, and it's amazing for the body. And it has a calorie source that's so nutritious that really does restore things that need that, cells that need that, such as the heart and the brain too, and the liver. So Brussels sprouts, that's a great one. Broccoli is a great one. But it's not just that. I like mosh. Some people call it mâché. Mosh, it's a green that's just incredible, a salad green. Look for mosh. That's an incredible one to help restore. So there's these sources that are out there. So that's just a couple of there. With arugula, couldn't get enough of arugula. Just bring that in. Parsley, that's another one. Cilantro. So these are the herbs that are critical, just like celery is an herb critical. And so these are just a few things right there. Asparagus, definitely one of my favorite, without a doubt, for restoring the liver. By far, one of the best liver restoring foods that we have is asparagus. So that's another one there. And yeah, this is just a good handful. Zucchini, crookneck squash, and summer squash. Amazing, without a doubt.
Well, thank you for that. I remember last year when you and I spoke, we talked about the adrenal glands and about how so many of us will go without food for too long and really run on adrenaline. And one of the things that I took away from our conversation was the importance of what you called adrenal snacks. And you said that an adrenal snack could be a celery stick with a handful of walnuts, or a few almonds with a handful of berries, or just cucumbers, or it could be an apple, or an apple and a couple of dates. Just before this conversation started today, I was feeling a need for an adrenal snack. I hadn't eaten for quite a few hours, and I had a banana with walnuts. And it worked. I felt so much better. Anthony, can you tell us why adrenal snacks are so important, and do they help to counteract the damage that we cause ourselves when we get hooked on our own adrenaline?
Well, it's an addictive kind of society. I mean, it's all about addictions, no matter which way you look at it. Adrenaline is our biggest addiction, without a doubt. So, I mean, we're just an adrenalized culture. This is how it works. And what does the adrenaline do? It's corrosive. It's toxic. It burns out brain cells, damages the liver. The liver has to soak it up like a sponge to protect your brain. So our heart and our brain is always under attack by our own adrenaline. So once again, go back to the universities, go back to school, go back to being, college, whatever it is. We're taught not to eat right there. We're just on coffee. And the adrenaline if you're not doing the adrenal snacks and you already have adrenal fatigue, you already have problems, you're already not feeling good, all these different things, and you have neurological symptoms that you may not know are like depression, anxiety, and all these, and you're getting that adrenaline up, it'll cause your problems to worsen, including hypoglycemia. All these things will start occurring because you need that blood sugar always balanced. You have the apple and a few walnuts. You have the apple and a handful of pumpkin seeds. You have an apple and celery stick. You have an apple and something else, banana and some celery sticks. These adrenal snacks are critical for recovery, critical for the central nervous system. So many people have neurological problems. And it's not even just that. If you feel pretty healthy and you're doing pretty good and you don't have any problems, you're going to eventually wear your adrenals out one day or burn out your neurotransmitters in the brain from adrenaline, corrosive adrenaline, saturating it, because we get addicted to our adrenaline in so many ways. We often get a surge of adrenaline pumping through our veins when we go past a certain point of not eating. I'll tell you, I mean, a lot of people have recovered severe adrenal fatigue just making sure they do those adrenal snacks and recovered from and got rid of their hypoglycemia, because what happens is the liver restores itself because the adrenal snacks are filling the liver up. The liver gets stronger, keeping you stable. So the adrenal snacks are critical.
You give us a beautiful chapter of meditations for the liver in your book, Liver Rescue. The final chapter is titled The Soul of Peace. Well, we often think of peace as the absence of certain things, the absence of war in particular, or the absence of pain and distress, and that is important. But you also stress that peace is about the presence of compassion. Anthony, what is self-compassion, and how would you encourage people to cultivate it?
Self-compassion is something that's so critical, because we've been taught to love ourselves. That's what we're taught. It's been the thing for a while. And there's nothing wrong with having some love for ourselves, because, what that does is, at least hating ourselves is what we don't want. And right now we're a society that can easily turn and hate ourselves. It's something that's just naturally happens. Anybody here long enough knows of this. And, on earth and how it works. But when we love ourselves, what happens is that we can get derailed easy. Like, for instance, if something happens like a breakup in a relationship or a hardship or a loss, all of a sudden, loving ourselves just can't stand the ground. It can't hold out. You need the compassion there. Love is really useless without compassion. Compassion is like the glue that holds love together. That's how it works. Things change, because once you put compassion in on things, and when it's in there, once you have that self-compassion for yourself and you pat yourself on the back, you won't hate yourself. You won't go into that realm when something has gone wrong in your life. So you have to have that self-compassion, because we're going to get bumps and bruises along the way. There's no question things are going to happen, and we're going to make mistakes. And if we're not compassionate towards ourselves while we make those mistakes, if we're not holding compassion for others why they make that mistake or those mistakes, if compassion isn't in the mix, love just dissolves. It kind of just falls apart. And so for love to be strong, it needs that compassion inside, bonded in there, held into there, because then we have compassion for that person. And then that takes the love to a new level. It's so important, including yourself. Having compassion for yourself is so critical. And then peace. Peace is all about, having compassion too. I remember when I was young and Spirit said, look, you're going to be doing this the rest of your life. And I was a child and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't care about people. I was like 7, 8 years old saying, I just want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bike. I want to roller skate. And that's what I want to do. And I want to go through the woods, and I want to, go camp out in the woods, and I want to explore. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do this. I remember 7, 8 years old. Spirit said, no, you have to do this. I said, no, I don't care. And Spirit said, you have to care. That's what Spirit said to me. You have to care. I said, why? And Spirit said, you have to have compassion. People are suffering. I said, I don't know what that means. 7 years old. I don't know what that means. I said, people are suffering. They're going to need this information. And you have to have compassion for yourself. You have to have compassion for others. And you have to start now. And I'm still not great at it. I'm doing everything I can to gain as much, to try to muster up as much compassion as I possibly can. Because, I've been knocked down in my life and the whole bit, if not had it easy. But every day I wake up and I say, the compassion is the key. And having that for others, no matter what is going on, and having that for yourself is critical. And so everybody has it in them. And I've met some of the most compassionate people that make me look like I'm not compassionate. I've come across people that are so compassionate. I got my tears busted out of my eyes. And the self-compassion they had for themselves and for others, I couldn't even get to that. I was like, so then I have to strive to be like, how can I get like that person is? How can I do that? So I have to work hard on it every day. It's not something that's easy, but it's inside of us all, and we all have to tap into it. And I work hard at doing it. I know everybody else does it. I mean, they're working hard at it, and it plays a role in healing others. And it's really an important thing.
It really is. And I hear that you're working to cultivate it and have been working to cultivate it really your whole life, beginning at 7 or 8 when you really wanted to ride your bike and run around. And Spirit was telling you, well, you need to develop compassion and that you have a gift and you need to learn how to use it in service of others. In the long run, Anthony, what do you hope will be the impact of your work?
Well, the bottom line is it's a source of information that's been given to me. So what would I like to see? Is I'd like to see more people using it like they are and getting better. And I'm blessed to see that they are. But I'd like to see it stand the test of time down the road. And I know celery juice is one of these things, and it will stand the test of time. It's on its way. It's changing lives. And I think that seeing that keep on going so people can heal, that's what I want to see. I also want to see people getting this advanced medical information in the future so they can actually get out of their chronic illness and at least have a chance, regardless, from a source that's not prompted by money and interest groups. And it just, and that's what I want. But, look, I never always get what I want. I mean, we all have a dream. So we all have a dream, and we just plug ahead and just hope we can keep on helping others and be all, and be where we want to be with it all.
Well, we do. And we do keep showing up and doing what we can. And I want to ask you if you agree with me about something. There's a thought that I have, and it's controversial. I want to see where you are with it. My take is that regardless of where we are now in terms of our health, there's really no need to throw up our hands and just accept diminished health as inevitable with each passing year. The minute we begin to take care of ourselves, the minute we start to eat healthier food, the minute we start to take care of our livers, the minute we start to adapt our lifestyles to what really serves our highest purposes, our lives become brighter. They become brighter with positive possibilities. And even if someone has liver damage from alcohol or drugs, it's rarely too late to help bring back our lives to health. That's what I think. Do you agree?
Well, I agree 100%. Our being has an ability to miraculously heal. It just does. It's always fighting for us, no matter what we're up against. You just got to give it what it needs. And you're assisting your body, and you're helping your body recover. And yes, livers can come back. You can actually stave off disease more in many ways and bring back a liver and bring back things in your life. We can heal. I've seen people recover. It's amazing. And I will tell you right now, I mean, the stories of people reversing their diseases and illnesses, look for inspiration through them, hear their stories. That can tell you can heal. That can tell you your body can heal, your liver can come back, and other things can come back when you thought it's not possible. But absolutely, we can.
Well, in our culture today, it's easy to forget that our bodies have an almost miraculous ability to regenerate and to restore health once we start giving our bodies the materials and the attention and the compassion that's needed. Anthony, on behalf of myself and Ocean and everyone involved in the food revolution, I want to thank you for these reminders, for your remarkable and original work. And I want to thank you, of course, for being with us today.
Well, we're all working together. It's a great honor. Some of the most amazing people I've met in my life, such as you both. And thank you for having me on. Truly blessing. And everybody, I love you. And thank you much.
We love you too. We've been talking here with Anthony William, author of many New York Times bestsellers, including Medical Medium, Life-Changing Foods. Save yourself and the ones you love with the hidden healing powers of fruits and vegetables. Anthony, your insights are refreshing, fascinating, and galvanizing, and your passion is contagious in the best possible way. It's been a tremendous honor and a delight to speak with you, and we thank you so much for your partnership in the food revolution.
Bless your heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Anthony William and to my dad and colleague, John Robbins, for that remarkable conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what others are saying, post and engage in the comments section on the broadcast page. Make sure to refresh those comments with the button you'll see there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Jill Anthony said, I am now consuming all organics and very much plant-based since I switched last September 11th. Brain fog, gone. Energy, way, way up. 38 pounds, gone. Hallelujah. Wonderful to hear it, Jill. Thank you for sharing. Beverly Smith said, I so appreciate your putting together this top quality summit. John Robbins' wise questions to leading edge experts and activists has given me life-changing information and motivation. It also means a great deal that you have made this summit available by telephone. Because of that, my boyfriend's been able to listen into some of the interviews. As a result, he's starting to feel empowered and is becoming supportive of my dietary and lifestyle changes and goals. Wonderful, 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 Beverly. I'm so happy to hear that the telephone option is helping and that your boyfriend is participating with you. It's so much easier to succeed in a healthy eating lifestyle when we have loved ones joining us in the journey. And a tip for any of you who are listening right now who might have friends or loved ones who aren't joining you in the journey themselves, you can still ask them to support you in your choices. And you can ask them, not to make fun of you. You can ask them to remember your needs. If they're making a meal, they can, make a version that works for you, even if they want to add some other stuff to it after. There are a lot of ways that families can coexist and work things out so that everybody's needs get respected. A lot of families disagree about a lot of stuff, but perhaps we can agree to treat each other with love and respect even in those situations. And of course, if you are able to inspire loved ones to join you on the journey, that does make it more fun and increases your chances of success in the long run. If you want to look at what someone's going to be like in 5 or 10 years, one of the clues might be who they're hanging out with today. So the more we can surround ourselves with positive influences, the better. That's one of the reasons we founded Whole Life Club, Food Revolution Network's membership community, is because we really wanted to help folks have a supportive peer group all over the world who can stand with them, celebrate successes, hold us in times of challenge, and be there as a resource, because we are not alone in this journey. And you can probably feel that right now as a part of this summit. There are so many people all over the globe who are stepping up, speaking out, and joining in this movement. Georgia Thurman said, Chris Wark, Dr. Lee, Anthony William, Ocean and John, thank you for bringing us back to God's wonderful garden. You are leaders who are a great example of following the truth that will lead us to hope, health, and healing. Thank you, Georgia. Ria Del Villar said, just wondering why I gained weight after becoming vegetarian, not eating too much grains. Help. Well, Ria, there are many reasons this could be. Let me first say, in general, the average vegetarian is lighter than the average non-vegetarian, and the average vegan is lighter still by about 15 pounds. However, that doesn't mean it's true for everybody, and it ultimately does depend what you're eating, how you're exercising, how you're metabolizing, and a lot of other factors in your life. What I want to encourage you to do, if weight is a concern for you, is to make sure to tune in and pay close attention to Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson, who will be our closing speaker of the interviews for this summit on Saturday. She is brilliant in understanding the neuroscience of food addiction and weight loss. And her work is extraordinary. And for anybody who is curious, if you may be addicted to food, which is one of the cornerstones of her work, recognizing that many of us suffer from food addiction, just like drug addiction, it can be a deep, pervasive thing and very challenging to break. You can go take her quiz at foodrevolution.org / let me see, I think it's / food quiz, isn't it? Let me just make sure. It's, yes, food quiz, foodrevolution.org / food quiz. And you can find out, and then you can get some resources from her right away. It's tremendously helpful. I love her work. And other factors could be sugar. I would look out for sugar and processed foods in general. Beverly Smith said, I have been mostly following a whole food plant-based diet and am very grateful for all this information, which helps me to improve it. I wish I could find a way to adequately thank Ocean and John and all the experts. I love y'all. Thank you, Beverly. And you know how you can thank us is by putting it into action. Because you know what? We do this because we want to help change the world. And so every time you choose real food over processed junk, every time you choose whole plant foods over factory farm meat, every time you choose organic over pesticide-contaminated foods, we're with you, we're celebrating you, and we're feeling deeply appreciated by you. Beverly also said, something I wonder about is, since legumes are so very good for us, how does this figure into evolution? Early humans couldn't cook beans, I'm assuming. I'm not questioning that I should eat beans. I eat them daily. Well, Beverly, the reality is that human beings have changed quite a bit in terms of how we live over the years. And yes, if you wanted to go back to an era where there was no cooking possible, where you were foraging in the wild for your foods every day, you'd probably eat a lot of bugs and grubs and pull stuff out of the ground. And yeah, legumes probably wouldn't be in the mix unless you figured out a way to sprout them. Although I think maybe sugar snap peas would be. But the reality is we live in the modern world with all kinds of resources and conveniences, which also give us some opportunities. And I think that consumption of legumes and consumption of grains is associated for most people with positive health outcomes in the long term. Therefore, I say let's take advantage of them. Brenda Crump said, is dementia hereditary? My grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's type dementia. My mother has been diagnosed with Lewy body type dementia. I have adopted a whole foods plant-based / vegan dietary intake. I'm working towards prevention. If dementia is hereditary, I will not become the next victim. Brenda, thank you for raising this. There are certainly genetic factors at play with dementia that make some people more or less predisposed towards it, but your genes do not determine your fate. You can literally shift your genetic expression through the way you live. This is the new science of epigenetics. It's breathtaking. And when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia, two of our past summit speakers, our friends Drs. Dean and Ayesha Sherzai, have shared. They are neurologists. They have decades of experience with Alzheimer's and dementia. They're at Loma Linda University in California. They say that 90% of cases of Alzheimer's and dementia could be prevented with choices in diet and lifestyle. So yes, some people will probably still get it, but you can do a lot. And you know what? The same things they advocate are the same things we're learning about over and again in this summit. It pretty much comes back to the same principles as the Ornish program. Eat well, eat better, move more, stress less, and love more. Rebecca Gomez said, love, love, love this summit. I'm the founder of the first plant-based school cafe in Qatar and indeed in the Persian Gulf region. We opened in March. 95% of the food we create and sell is whole foods, and the teenagers really enjoy it. Thank you so very much for your huge efforts. Wow, Rebecca, thank you for spreading that. I am so glad to hear. I didn't know there was a plant-based school cafe in Qatar. How wonderful, and how wonderful that the students are enjoying it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for making this resource available. Wendy Lichter said, Dr. Lee's research is a wonderful contribution to understanding chronic autoimmune disease. I happened to contract MS. With lifestyle changes, my MS has been in a solid remission for close to 45 years. Each year, however, I add and subtract modes of behavior and find I can continuously improve my health and get more joy in life. Thank you for bringing these wonderful speakers to us each year. Love the Food Revolution Summit. Wendy, thank you for sharing that. And It adds to all of the stories that we've been hearing in the last couple days about people who have been experiencing that MS is not a death sentence or a one-way street, and how beautiful that that is possible and that you are living proof of it. And I want to highlight also, you said that you're finding ways to improve your health and to get more joy in life. You know, I don't think that we choose to eat healthy food just purely so that we can extend our lives. I think we want to add more joy to our lives, more beauty, more satisfaction, more peace, more fulfillment to our lives. As most of you know, my grandpa founded an ice cream company, Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors, and he brought a lot of smiles to a lot of people with all those ice cream flavors. And my dad, John, of course, grew up with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool in the backyard and 31 flavors of ice cream in the freezer, and in time chose to move on from the family company and from any access to the family wealth to follow his own rocky road and become a best-selling author and one of the great leaders of the food revolution today. I reflect on my grandpa's legacy, and I think that, you know, we've got to become as good at promoting healthy food as he was at promoting ice cream. You know, we've got to, if we're going to really change lives and change the world and take it mainstream. And one of the keys is pleasure, because I say that in the long run, you know, 31 steps to health can bring you more pleasure, more satisfaction, more joy, even than 31 flavors of ice cream. And I love that you're talking about joy, Wendy, because, you know, I think that that's what's contagious. When we have more bigger smiles, when we have more bounce in our step, when we have more vibrancy in our beings, our loved ones will want to be more like us. They'll ask, hey, how did you lose all that weight? How come you're looking so good at your age? What's your secret? And then we can tell them. And their door has been opened. Angela Julie said, still listening here in Germany. I have so far not missed a single interview, and I'm writing my fingers off with so many precious notes. I am planning to heal German consumers here. Well, Angela, that is wonderful. Thank you for your dedication and your passion and spreading the word in Germany. And thank you also for absorbing this all so deeply. And we want to make it even easier for you. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. So now you won't have to write your little fingers off anymore, because you can still take notes if you want to, but you'll have the entire transcripts of the entire summit. You'll have the action checklists with special highlights from each of the interviews. And of course, you'll have the interviews, the actual recordings of them for life, any time or place you want. And you can also share it with people you love. Congratulations. Our team will follow up with you. And now we are nearing the end of this day of broadcast, day 5 of the Food Revolution Summit. And I want to say that you can express your opinions on what you're hearing, and you can find out what other people are saying in the comments section on our broadcast page. So if you haven't already, please bring your voice in. Let us know what you're thinking, how it's going, what you're discovering, what's inspired you, and make sure to refresh those comments so you can see the latest ones that have been submitted. Also, you can join in the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Food Revolution Network. And I hope you will come back and join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 Eastern, 3 p.m. GMT for Radiance, the Science of Lasting Vitality. We are going to have some extremely powerful presentations from Dr. David Perlmutter on breakthroughs you need to know for a healthy brain, Dr. Christian Northrup on secrets for thriving at every age, and from Rich Roll on the plant power way to achieve peak performance. And in the meanwhile, please go ahead and post your comments and share in the conversation. Catch the replays. Check out the empowerment package so you can own it all for life and support our mission at the same time. And I also want to invite you to enjoy some delicious, healthy food. Today's recipe of the day is California Cobb salad. It features 2 amazing cancer-fighting foods, mushrooms and kale. We wish you a wonderful, healthy, thriving, beautiful day. This is Ocean Robbins signing off from day 5 in the Food Revolution Summit. At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. And with every empowerment package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Join this movement and support this mission